Chapter 38:24. Unfortunately, the inescapable net's power was not small, and the sound of the war drums was also very loud, but Xiao Hua, who was deep under the Black Wind Ridge, could not sense it. Looking at the colorful clouds filling the sky and the countless golden rope-like engraved rule chains covering the entire Black Wind Ridge like a big net, and the engraved rule chains even penetrated the ground, Sun Gang suddenly realized something. Maybe Xiao Hua was not in the Black Wind Ridge at all. Xiao Hua was, of course, in the Black Wind Ridge. At this moment, Xiao Hua was brimming with confidence and prepared to work harder to clean up the Black Wind Ridge's source-stone vein. Suddenly, an extremely strange aura appeared from underground, and then it instantly surrounded Xiao Hua's figure like mercury. Moreover, that aura didn't stop at all, and it continued to spread towards the surroundings. This aura overflowed the engraved rule chains, and Xiao Hua was very familiar with the power of order between the engraved rule chains. Xiao Hua was a little surprised. What is this? Could it be that there is a Heaven's Punishment prison crystal under the Black Wind Ridge? Thinking of this, Xiao Hua hurriedly gave up on the source stone vein and moved down. When he was close to that aura, he did not need to release his divine sense. Xiao Hua's eyes could already see that between that dark layer of soil, a layer of armor inscriptions flashed with a faint multicolored light, like a small stream flowing slowly. That armor inscriptions were connected to each other, and it was extremely similar to the engraved rule chains on the Heaven's Punishment prison crystal. Xiao Hua frowned slightly and looked around. This faint multicolored light covered the entire ground, as if it was everywhere. What was special was that this layer of multicolored light was between the source stone vein and the metal and wood magnetic space. Xiao Hua could be sure that this multicolored light was definitely not there before, and was just born. Xiao Hua thought for a moment and released his divine sense. Boom! Xiao Hua's divine sense had just touched the multicolored light when a huge thunderbolt rushed out from the engraved rule chains and pounced on Xiao Hua's Naiwan Palace along with his divine sense. The power of this thunderbolt was even more fierce than the Heaven's Punishment prison crystal. Oomph! Xiao Hua's divine sense condensed and attacked the thunderbolt. In a loud noise, the thunderbolt was broken and retreated, and Xiao Hua's divine sense was shattered. Motherfucker! Xiao Hua's heart went cold. Looking at the densely packed Ming law shackles under his feet, his scalp couldn't help but go numb. These are tens of thousands of Heaven's Punishment prison crystals. Even if I have the Demon Clan's saint bloodline in my body, I'm afraid I can't get rid of it, right? Inside Xiao Hua's body, the 132 million small dots were constantly changing. The bloodline of the Absolute Saint was also constantly transforming Xiao Hua's body. However, this bloodline was known as the Absolute Saint. How could it possibly complete the transformation of the body in just a few years or a dozen years? Even if Xiao Hua had successfully obtained the inheritance of the demonic beast clan, it would still be impossible for him to break this strange engraving chain. No. Xiao Hua looked at the crisscrossing Ming Lu chains and suddenly realized this thing definitely didn't exist originally. It was originally hidden in the ground. Instead, it had just been laid down by someone. Fuck, this Zhao's Black Wind Ridge has indeed attracted the attention of the Immortal Palace. This Xiao has been blocked in the Black Wind Ridge. Xiao Hua's regret only lasted for a moment. Although he had already given up on the Black Wind Ridge, in his plan, if the Immortal Palace's immortal soldiers and immortal generals came to exterminate the Black Wind Ridge, he should still meet the immortal soldiers and immortal generals face to face. He wanted the Immortal Palace to think that the Black Wind Ridge was Xiao Hua's lair and not pay attention to the soaring Dragon Mountain Range and other places. All right, since the Immortal Palace's people have come, this old man will take a look at the difference between the Immortal Palace's Ming Law shackles and the Heaven's Punishment prison crystal's Ming Law shackles. Xiao Hua understood. With a wave of his hand, he took out the Kunlun mirror. Under the stimulation of his magic power, a six-colored light pillar loudly fell on the Ming Law shackles. Boom! In a light pillar that was several feet in size, the Ming law shackles were particularly obvious. The same power of order between them very harmoniously sealed the entire space. When the Kunlun mirror's light pillar fell, the minute the light in the light pillar touched the Ming law shackles, runes of the same size as the Ming law shackles immediately appeared. These runes frantically respected the Ming law shackles. Flickering crystal filaments were born between the Ming law shackles and the runes. These crystal filaments flickered and emitted a strong sound. Cracks that looked like spider silk faintly appeared in the light pillar. Gotcha! Just as the fine lines of the space cracks appeared, the Ming law shackles within several feet of Xiaohua flashed at the same time and pounced on Xiaohua. Xiaohua sneered. He didn't dodge or evade. He stimulated the yuanying in his body. The Kunlun mirror's brilliance once again flourished. Gotcha! Several thunderbolts fell on Xiaohua's body. The golden light protecting Xiaohua's body was shattered. His Taoist robe also turned into ashes. However, on his flashing dark golden skin, in addition to hundreds of tiny black lines, there was also the Ming law shackles that penetrated deep into his flesh that were more painful than the tip of a needle. Xiaohua didn't suffer any particularly big injuries. However, after this thunderbolt, even if the Kunlun mirror's light pillar increased again, the chains in the Ming law shackles became thicker and sturdier. The Ming law shackles runes far surpassed the Kunlun mirror's runes. Even more Ming law shackles pounced on the Kunlun mirror with flickering crystal filaments. Seeing this, Xiaohua understood that his Kunlun mirror might not be able to resist the entire Ming law shackles. If he wanted to escape, he would need to use other methods. At this moment, Xiaohua didn't have time to think anymore. The entire Ming law shackles trembled. Countless thunderbolts turned into a torrent and pounced on Xiaohua. An incomparably majestic voice came from the thunderbolts. Evil path, you dare to break my immortal palace's inescapable net? Why don't you come in front of this general and admit your crimes before being captured? The enormous thunderbolt forced Xiaohua to have no choice but to flee upwards. He originally wanted to take out another magic weapon, but when he heard this voice, he sneered and shouted, "What big words! This old man wants to see just how great your divine ability is to capture this old man." At this moment, high up in the sky, the immortal general in charge of setting up the inescapable net frowned. He urged his body to look down and then hurriedly flew to the front of the war chariot. He bowed and said, "Reporting to the great general, there are signs of the inescapable net being attacked under the Black Wind Ridge. What's the result? Did anyone escape?" "No." The immortal general hurriedly replied, "There are no signs of the inescapable net being broken." Sun Jian, who was on the war chariot, said indifferently, "Set up the formation. Prepare to use the inescapable net to attack the Dao Sect's great heavenly cycle star formation. When the formation is broken, capture all the evil path members of the Black Wind Ridge." "Yes, sir." The immortal general gave the order and waved the flag in his hand. Tens of thousands of immortal soldiers activated their bodies and surrounded the Black Wind Ridge. Seeing that not a single person had come out of the Black Wind Ridge, Sun Gang finally relaxed. No matter where Xiaohua went, as long as he was not in the Black Wind Ridge. Even if Xiaohua was in Jiang country, with Qua Chong's strength, he might not be able to take Xiaohua down. But right at this moment, a gust of wind rose in the distance, and another war chariot swayed with flames as it flew over. Qua Chong's striking 30-meter figure appeared in Sun Gang's line of sight. Looking at Qua Chong and the tens of thousands of immortal soldiers behind him, Sun Gang maliciously guessed that Qua Chong had been defeated by Xiaohua. Why are you back so soon?" Sun Jian was also a little surprised, but seeing that Qua Chong and the rest did not look like they had been defeated, he asked curiously. Qua Chong drove the war chariot closer and bowed. Reporting to the great general, although the country of Jiang was established by the Dao sect, there are very few Dao sect cultivators in the country, and there are very few of them. Under the siege of the city, these Dao sect cultivators were so scared that they pissed their pants. However, There is an unexpected matter that I have to report to the great general. I believe that the great general would not have thought of it. Oh, Sun Jian was startled and asked, "What is it?" After the Tao sect cultivators of the Jiang country were killed by my subordinates, many Buddhist sect disciples flew out from the surroundings of the capital. There were even monk soldiers. What? Buddhist sect? Monk soldier? Sun Jian, who was inside the flames, was truly surprised. In the current situation, it was not wise to rashly go against the Buddhist sect country. Yes, it's the monk soldier. Hua Chong nodded. But what's strange is that the cultivation of these Buddhist sect disciples is relatively low, and none of them could be the master of country. Thus, this general might as well go all out. If you sure are bold. Sun Jian sneered. I told you to destroy the Tao sect's Jiang country, but you actually killed the disciples of the Buddhist sect. Hua Chong said in a low voice, feeling wronged. Great general, the Jiang country is indeed a Tao cultivator country. The imperial advisor's lot recorded that the Tao sect cultivators established a country. My Sun Palace is under the orders of the immortal emperor to annihilate the Jiang country. Not to mention the appearance of the Buddhist sect in the Jiang country, even if it was a Confucian cultivator. This general does not dare to disobey the orders of the immortal emperor. That's right, that's how it should be. When Sun Gang heard this, no matter what happened to Xiaohua, he was already in high spirits. He did not have a good impression of the Buddhist sect. Hearing that Hua Chong had killed a Buddhist sect disciple, he naturally cheered from the side. Kill all these bald donkeys. Unfortunately, after Sun Gang finished speaking, he suddenly came to his senses. If Xiaohua was not in the Jiang country, where could he be? Wasn't he inside the Black Wind Ridge's great formation? Sun Jian muttered to himself on the war chariot. He was born to kill, and who knew how many vengeful spirits he had under his command? How could he be afraid of killing a few more Buddhist sect disciples? The only person he was afraid of was Sun Gang. Now that Sun Gang had spoken, what else could he say? Those who shouldn't be killed, none of them can be killed. Those who should be killed, not a single one of them can be let off. Sun Jian's voice was very indifferent, as if tens of thousands of lives were nothing more than a gust of wind. Don't worry, great general. Hua Chong laughed. This general's subordinates will definitely not touch the people of the secular world. They will not let any of the descendants of the royal family go. Sun Jian snorted, feeling that Hua Chong had said too much. Hua Chong looked at Sun Gang's war chariot, and then said to Sun Jian, Great general, this Black Wind Ridge seems to be rather troublesome. Great general, please wait a moment, and let this general be the vanguard. Go. Sun Jian nodded. Don't be careless. Yes, sir. Hua Chong waved the axe in his hand and laughed. This general is not an idiot. How could this general dare to be careless with a Tao sect cultivator who could kill Kong Hongwu of the Star-Lord Palace? Chapter 38:25. Hua Chong, what did you say? Sun Jian said sternly. Who told you that the cultivators of Black Wind Ridge were the ones who killed Kong Hongwu? This. Hua Chong heard the change in Sun Jian's tone and knew it was bad. He quickly bowed and said, This general deserves to die. This general deserves to die. Speak, who told you? Sun Jian hid in the flames and didn't show himself, but his tone was very strict. Dongfang Haohua. Hua Chong replied without hesitation. After this general followed the great general to conquer Jing province. Dongfang Haohua came to. This general told this general when we were drinking. Hua Chong wanted to say something else, but when he saw the flames on the sun chariot and Sun Jian's figure inside, he didn't say anything in the end. Hua Chong, this old man has told you more than once. Sun Jian said indifferently, We are immortal generals of the immortal palace. We only follow the orders of the immortal emperor. We only care about killing and conquering. Other things have nothing to do with us. Could it be that you've forgotten? Yes, this general knows his mistake. Hua Chong's huge body slightly bowed. It seemed like he was very afraid of Sun Jian. Go. This old man will remember this. Don't let others use you in the future. Sun Jian ordered. Hua Chong lowered his head and retreated. After flying for a while, he suddenly turned around and waved the broad axe in his hand in midair. The layers of clouds were torn in half by the broad axe. Roar! Kwa Chong roared and shouted angrily. Damn evil path! Come out and die! Sun Jian's words clearly had a double meaning. Sun Gang was shy and his face was burning. However, he didn't care because he was young. Sun Jian, on the other hand, stood on the war chariot like an iron tower. He looked at the red-faced boy on the battlefield with a puzzled expression on his cold face. He really did not understand why the Hall of Enlightenment would send this boy over for no reason. However, since Sun Gang was holding the token, he could not be bothered to care too much. In front of 100,000 immortal soldiers, Sun Gang was nothing. Kwa Chong cursed a few times in the Black Wind Mountain, but no one came out. Kwa Chong was furious. Roar! Kwa Chong opened his mouth and spat out Zhenqi. The Zhenqi tumbled in the air and condensed into pillars of Zhenqi from all directions. They crashed into Kwa Chong's body. Layers of inscriptions gushed out from Kwa Chong's body. The inscriptions were like clouds. Kwa Chong's body was supporting his body. In a moment, it grew to a size of 100 zhong. Puff! Kwa Chong's sub-body opened its mouth again, and a mouthful of three-colored true qi landed on the Xianhua broad axe. Layers of inscriptions also appeared on the surface of the Xianhua broad axe, and in a few breaths, it expanded to a size of 1,000 feet. Since you don't want to come out, if you want to be a coward, then take a look at my axe. Kwa Chong shouted and waved his arms. The Xianhua broad axe let out a thunderous roar in the air. Gray cracks faintly appeared on the sharp axe. Woo! The axe was like a mountain as it chopped down on the capital star formation. General Kwa. Another immortal general, standing in the distance, saw Kwa Chong swing his axe to attack the formation and quickly wanted to warn him. Unfortunately, just as he shouted, a huge crack appeared where the axe landed. It was as if the entire void had been split open by Kwa Chong. Kwa Chong dodge. Suddenly, Sun Jian's voice came from the war chariot. Kwa Chong was stunned and somewhat puzzled. It was at this moment that he saw the crack suddenly sink. Then, there was a flash of brilliance at the deepest part of the crack. A seemingly cryptic rune moved slightly, and starlight appeared. A powerful force that suffocated Kwa Chong came rushing at him. This force was like a huge hand that pushed Kwa Chong's axe in the opposite direction and cleaved at Kwa Chong's sub-body. At this moment, a huge flaming arm extended from the Sun War Chariot and grabbed Kwa Chong's arm. Kwa Chong's 1,000-foot-tall body dodged to the side. Whoosh! The back of the huge axe whistled past the sub-body. It was completely out of Kwa Chong's control. The huge sub-body was even brushed by the huge axe, and a few feet of it was sliced off by the huge axe. Damn it! Kwa Chong could not help but curse. What kind of array is this? General Kwa, the immortal general in the distance, hurriedly replied, "This is the Taoism's grand heavenly cycle star formation." See, Kwa Chong could not help but exclaim when he heard that. Grand heavenly cycle star formation? Isn't this the Taoism's long-lost ancient great array? How did it appear in Black Wind Ridge? Kwa Chong was so surprised that he stuttered. Damn it! Before the immortal general could reply, a rather arrogant voice came from the great array. Which shameless thing actually dares to smash my door? Do you not want to live anymore? While speaking, a figure slightly distorted and flew out from the capital star formation. Wasn't that Xiao Hua? See, it really is. Seeing Xiao Hua fly out like in the image, Sun Gang cried out in his heart. His eyes turned rapidly, wanting to warn Xiao Hua of something. However, looking at the inescapable trap that had already been set up, and thinking about his cultivation that could almost ignore it, he could only sneak a glance at the distant Sun War Chariot, not daring to act rashly. Are you that Xiao Hua, the evil path? Kwa Chong saw Xiao Hua fly out and pointed with his wood-like finger. Xiao Hua ignored Kwa Chong. He first looked at the flashing, inescapable trap in the sky, then looked at the distant flaming battlefield. His gaze swept across the 100,000 immortal soldiers surrounding them before finally landing on Kwa Chong. He said coldly, Are you immortal soldiers and immortal generals of the immortal palace? What immortal law did this Shao violate to actually use immortal soldiers to destroy my Black Wind Ridge? Shao Hua, you killed. Hua Chong immediately came to his senses and hurriedly corrected himself. I am Hua Chong, a vanguard official under perfected Lord Qingyuan of the Sun Palace. My Sun Palace was ordered by the immortal emperor to send troops to suppress Black Wind Ridge. As for what immortal law you violated, we don't know. If you know what's good for you, follow us back to the immortal palace to apologize. There will definitely be an immortal official who will tell you the cause and effect. If you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for being merciless and taking your life. All brawn and no brains. Simple-minded. Xiao Hua curled his lips and said disdainfully, "You don't need to play this kind of trick to coax children in front of this, Xiao. Your immortal palace has always treated my Dao sect cultivators as fish. You can conquer whoever you want. Now that you've attacked my Black Wind Ridge without any reason, you actually want this Xiao to bind my arms and apologize? Does the immortal palace still want face?" Xiao Hua, you know what you've done? Hua Chong sneered. There's no need to quibble here. I don't want to listen anymore. If you don't want to follow me back to the immortal palace, I'll make my move. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Do you think this Xiao is afraid of you? Xiao Hua sneered and raised his hand to take out the wishful staff. Ha ha ha. This kind of child's toy actually dares to embarrass itself in front of me. You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Hua Chong couldn't help but laugh. His figure swayed slightly in midair. Xiao Hua was now smaller than a child in front of Hua Chong, who was like a giant spirit immortal. Woo! As soon as Hua Chong's mocking voice fell, a gust of wind whistled. The heaven and earth essence chi within a few miles began to surge and rushed into Xiao Hua's body. Xiao Hua's body flashed with a dark golden brilliance and began to expand wildly. Stop! The immortal general controlling the inescapable net in the distance was shocked and hurriedly ordered. Sure enough, the inscriptions in the sky quickly overflowed, isolating the Black Wind Ridge from the outside world. Without sufficient heaven and earth essence chi, Xiao Hua's transcendence golden body gradually slowed down. Haha, can such a shameless method stop Grandpa Xiao? Xiao Hua laughed a few times and no longer absorbed the heaven and earth essence chi. The 13200 small dots on his body began to rotate. Each dot was like an ancient evil spirit. The power of tens of thousands of stars in the sky rushed down, ignoring the inescapable net and rushing into Xiao Hua's body. Roar! Xiao Hua roared, and his transcendence golden body turned into the size of 100 feet in the blink of an eye. Hua Chong's mouth and nose were overflowing with a violent aura, but whether it was the eye-clearing technique or other magical powers, they could not detect any difference. Hua Chong was a little surprised. Grow, grow, grow. Xiao Hua roared several times. In front of Hua Chong's stunned eyes, the wishful steel staff also grew to the size of 100 feet. It was not inferior to Hua Chong's axe. Sun Gang had already stood up from the chariot, his little face flushed with excitement. If it weren't for Sun Jian, he would have already clapped his hands. This Xiao Hua was really awesome. Eat this Xiao staff. Xiao Hua held the wishful steel staff in his hand, and a huge staff shadow crossed the sky and smashed towards Hua Chong. Seeing that the wishful steel staff had not yet fallen, the huge whistling sound of the wind and the suffocating strength had already hit. Hua Chong's heart was excited for no reason. He also shouted, "Good. You also eat this Zhao's axe." As he spoke, the Xianhua axe made a trembling sound. It was as excited as Hua Chong, and it split a subtle arc in the air to meet the wishful steel staff. Boom! A loud sound was mixed with violent shockwaves. This was the first time the two of them clashed, but they had already set off a powerful aura. Not to mention the surrounding immortal soldiers and immortal generals. Even the capital star formation above the Black Wind Ridge was rippling slightly. Hua Chong's figure quickly retreated 100 feet. The handle of the Xianhua axe was still trembling violently. Obviously, in this fight, Kwa Chong did not have any advantage at all. However, Kwa Chong wasn't depressed. Instead, he was unusually excited. It was as if he was happy that he had met his match with Xiao Hua. He was so excited that he actually forgot about Sun Jian's warning and shouted, "Ha, you're really powerful. Sure enough, you are the cultivator who killed Kong Hongwu." Xiao Hua's figure also retreated. His astonished eyes were also slightly narrowed. Kwa Chong's strength was really great, only inferior to the dwarf he saw above the Liao River in the Longevity Town. However, thinking about it, Kwa Chong's surname was Kwa. He was afraid that the Kwa bloodline of the Sunset Island would be normal for him to have such strength. Chapter 38:26. Kwa Chong's words immediately reminded Xiao Hua. He looked around and knew that if he didn't use his methods today, he wouldn't have a good ending. He unconsciously smiled coldly and said, "I don't know what you're talking about. If you want to fight, then fight. Don't use some innocent crime to find excuses for yourself." Kwa Chong naturally also woke up. He mumbled and didn't dare say more. He urged his body to once again fight with Xiao Hua. One was the Immortal Palace's giant spirit immortal, and the other was the demon race's Dharma idol. One was a refined imperial equipment, and the other was a demon weapon refined with blood. One was a Confucian military school's secret axe technique, and the other was a Taoist body cultivator's heavenly staff technique. The two of them did not use any other magical powers and just fought each other with brute force in midair. Soon, half an hour had passed. The two of them were indeed evenly matched, and there was no clear winner. The other immortal soldiers and immortal generals were fascinated by the fight, but the more the two of them fought, the more frightened they became. As the Sun Palace's vanguard, Kwa Chong didn't know how many Taoist countries he had conquered and how many Taoist cultivators he had killed. However, he had never seen a cultivator who could fight with him like this. This Xiao Hua in front of him didn't use any magic weapons, nor did he use any spells. He also didn't use any magic power. Just by relying on his physical strength and weapon, he was able to fight him to a standstill. What if Xiao Hua used a Taoist magical power? Wouldn't he be defeated? While thinking, Kwa Chong waved his Xianhua axe and shouted, "Xiao Hua, I'm going to use a secret technique. Be careful." While Kwa Chong was thinking, how could Xiao Hua's heart not be in turmoil? He had always wanted to hide his cultivation. Even when he faced Duanmu, Liangsheng in the Misty Mountain Maze formation, he was still enduring. He let Duanmu Liangsheng have the misconception that he was only at the upper 4th level of essence energy, or at most at the lower 5th level of essence energy. But now, fighting with Kwa Chong like this, how could he not know that Kwa Chong's strength had already reached the edge of the middle 5th level? If he defeated Kwa Chong, the Immortal Palace would definitely know that he had already reached the middle stage of the 5th grade of elemental energy. However, this Kwa Chong was only the vanguard. Naturally, there were other immortal generals after the vanguard. In the distant sky, Xiao Hua's divine sense could not penetrate the chariot that was spewing flames. Presumably, it was the commander-in-chief of this expedition against the Black Wind Ridge, perfected Lord Qingyuan of the Sun Palace. What cultivation level was this perfected Lord Qingyuan? Xiao Hua didn't dare to imagine how the Immortal Palace would react if he defeated Kwa Chong and then defeated the commander. However, if he were to escape, Xiao Hua's gaze swept across the inescapable net, and a bitter taste appeared in his mouth. Forget it. Hearing Kwa Chong's reminder, a cold glint flashed across Xiao Hua's eyes. Since we've come this far, it's hard to conceal our cultivation, so there's no need to regret it. The soaring Dragon Mountain Range's grand formation has already been set up, and the Immortal Palace won't be able to discover our Fortune Gate's foundation in a short time. I don't believe that the Immortal Palace can cover the sky with one hand when the hidden Immortal Continent, the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, and the Pure Land are so big. All right, Xiao Hua laughed wildly as well. Since it's like that, then I won't hold back any longer. I'll let you see what it means by there's always someone stronger. It can't be, right? Kwa Chong was a little dumbfounded. He muttered in his heart, but his hands didn't slack off. With a roar, He waved the Xianhua giant axe with both hands and slashed toward Xiaohua. However, at the same time that the broad axe chopped down, a three-colored light emerged from the subbody that was 100 zhong in size. As the light surged, another 3 subbodies of different colors appeared out of thin air and surrounded Xiaohua in an instant. Every subbody looked exactly the same as the subbody in front of Xiaohua. Even the broad axe that chopped down at the same time similarly flickered with a cold light, blocking the direction that Xiaohua dodged in. It's a little strange. Xiaohua scanned with his divine sense and didn't perceive the difference between these 4 subbodies. Your 4 giant axes are also very sharp, Xiaohua muttered in his heart. He didn't open his delusion breaker dharma eye to see the truth. Instead, his figure suddenly rushed forward. His arms gathered all the strength in his body and waved the wishful staff to smash the giant axe in front of him. At the same time, he released his divine sense and condensed it into a hammer, directly facing the giant axe on the left side. Boom! 2 loud sounds came out at the same time. Xiaohua's wishful staff hit Qua Chong in front of him and sent him flying 100 meters away. The giant axe in his hand had thousands of inscriptions on its handle and instantly shrunk like a child's toy. Looking at Xiaohua's left side, the hammer of divine sense also sent the giant axe flying. Moreover, the giant axe was extremely sharp. Xiaohua's divine sense was actually split in half. However, at the same time that Xiaohua's Naiwan Palace shook violently, the 2 hammer of divine sense crashed into one of Qua Chong's subbodies like meteors. Amidst a loud explosion, Qua Chong's avatar was pierced through. 2 massive holes appeared like a pair of soulless eyes. Swish! The 1,000-meter-sized avatar collapsed in a flash. It was even faster than melting snow. Boom boom! When the subbody clone collapsed, the other 3 clones had fear in their eyes. As the sound of their bodies collapsing rang out, Qua Chong's clone disappeared, and so did his main body. In fact, his body, which had gradually returned to its original size of 100 feet, was covered in layers of cracks that resembled spiderwebs. A bloody aura gradually spread out from the cracks. Damn it! Qua Chong had never imagined that he would actually fall into such a losing situation. It seemed that before he used his divine ability, he was still evenly matched with Xiaohua. How could there be such a huge difference with just 1 strike? However, he didn't have the time to think any further. His intuition from the bloody battle told him that he was absolutely not a match for this Taoist sect cultivator, and he could only flee now if he didn't want to die. Qua Chong hurriedly moved his body, ignoring his injuries as he tried to escape. You want to leave? Xiaohua's huge transcendence golden body sneered, and his big hand grabbed down from the air. In an instant, Qua Chong was imprisoned by the big hand for hundreds of feet. Kill! Qua Chong resisted stubbornly, waving his Xianhua axe. Unfortunately, his axe was also broken by Xiaohua, and it didn't show any special light. Break! The immortal general at the side naturally waved the formation flag in his hand. Above the inescapable net, a thunderous chain of Ming Lu issued a crackling sound, wrapping around Xiaohua's large hand. Troublesome! Xiaohua had seen the power of the heavenly punishment prison crystal and knew that he couldn't compete with this chain of law. With a slight sigh, he hurriedly pulled back his big hand as if to avoid it. Seeing this, Qua Chong's heart relaxed slightly. Under the stimulation of his genuine qi, his body flew toward his chariot. However, the moment he relaxed, Xiaohua's huge body suddenly flashed with lightning, and a string of phantoms was born in the lightning. In a few breaths, Xiaohua was like a huge mountain flying above Qua Chong's head. In the past, it was always Qua Chong who used this kind of deterrence to scare his enemies. He never thought that there would be a day when he would be bullied. Qua Chong couldn't help but scream. As soon as he screamed, Xiaohua's big hand grabbed him again like catching a chicken. How dare you? The immortal general who set up the formation obviously couldn't save him in time. Sun Jian on the Sun Chariot certainly couldn't ignore it, but after hearing his soft reprimand, the flame on the Sun Chariot turned into a flying arrow, flashing over thousands of feet and shooting straight towards Xiao Hua's big hand. Although Xiao Hua was very confident in his transcendent's golden body, he still didn't dare to rashly collide with the fire arrow. He raised his big hand again and dodged the flame arrow in a flash. Phew! Hua Chong breathed a sigh of relief again. His body flew a few hundred feet in an instant. Seeing that he was close to the sun chariot, suddenly, another kind of suffocating aura appeared, as if an invisible big hand had appeared out of thin air and tightly grabbed Hua Chong. How dare you? The flame arrow that had just flown by suddenly exploded, as if Sun Jian was angry, turned into thousands of fire points and rushed towards Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua sneered. His big hand didn't hesitate and grabbed upward. The innumerable flames immediately froze under Xiao Hua's universe in the sleeve technique. However, just as Xiao Hua was about to extinguish the flames, rumble! The innumerable flames exploded with a loud rumble, causing Xiao Hua's large hand to be abruptly lifted up. However, although the flames were powerful, the dark golden light on Xiao Hua's large hand flickered slightly, and it was not damaged at all. When Xiao Hua raised his big hand, his face suddenly changed slightly, and he roared like Sun Jian. Then, with his other hand, he suddenly waved the wishful steel staff and very strangely smashed it into a place in the air. Clang! With a crisp sound, a flame was born under the wishful steel staff. Under the splashing of the flame, a three-pointed double-edged sword was revealed, and behind this three-pointed double-edged sword, Sun Jian's burly figure appeared in the air with flames lingering around him. Humph! The immortal general of the Immortal Palace is really powerful. Xiao Hua waved his left hand and pinched Hua Chong in his big hand. He sneered, "This sneak attack ability, one is better than the other." Xiao Hua. Sun Jian's voice was like a burning flame. "Let go of Hua Chong." Xiao Hua sneered. "Lord Supreme, I am so scared. The Immortal Palace really thinks highly of this Xiao." With that, Xiao Hua's figure slowly shrank, but his big hand still held Hua Chong tightly. "If you want to live, let go of Hua Chong." Sun Jian did not reveal his figure and said, "This lord knows that you may be wronged, but this lord is under the emperor's order. If you let go of Hua Chong, this lord promises not to hurt you. You only need to go to the Lingyun Palace and explain things clearly. There is no danger to your life. To be honest, didn't you just kill Kong Hongwu? It's really nothing." TSK Tisk. Xiao Hua sneered and smacked his lips. Lord Supreme's upper lip touching the lower lip is easy to say, not to mention whether this Xiao killed Kong Hongwu or not, just by the fact that Lord Supreme led so many immortal soldiers and immortal generals to besiege my Black Wind Ridge and set up such a huge defensive formation here. This Xiao can't see that the Immortal Palace wants to exterminate my Black Wind Ridge without leaving anyone alive. This Xiao took a lot of effort to capture a hostage. If I let him go, how can this Xiao face the disciples of my Black Wind Ridge? Chapter 38:27. Xiao Hua, don't think that just because you have an immortal general of my Sun Palace, this true monarch will hold back. Sun Jian replied decisively. In this inescapable net, this true monarch has 10,000 ways to capture you. Ha ha! Xiao Hua laughed and raised Hua Chong. You can try. If you don't put your vanguard's life in your eyes, you can come at me. This Xiao can't guarantee that you won't crush Hua Chong into flesh and blood when you try. Oh, right, my Dao sect seems to have another method. This Xiao also wants to try it. Can I crush Hua Chong's soul at the same time? How dare you? The flames around Sun Jian rushed into the air again. He was obviously extremely angry. Great General. Hua Chong struggled with all his might and shouted, "Don't care about this general's life or death. Quickly kill this evil cultivator." "Shut up," Sun Jian scolded, scaring Hua Chong into shrinking his head. He knew that Xiao Hua suddenly released his magic power to let him speak. This was Xiao Hua's plan to lure the enemy. Xiao Hua. Sun Jian pondered for a moment. The flames around his body suddenly disappeared, revealing his true body. He said, "Look at who I am." "Ah, Sun Jian?" When Xiao Hua saw Sun Jian, who had thick eyebrows, big eyes, a lion's nose, and a tiger's mouth, he was slightly stunned. Then he mocked himself. I really didn't expect you to be the great general of the Immortal Palace. Sun Jian ignored Xiao Hua's sarcasm and said indifferently, when this son obtained the emperor's decree, I also obtained your image. This son obviously knows that the enemy this time is you. However, this son is a great general of the Immortal Palace. Therefore, this son can't violate the emperor's decree because of some previous friendship. Moreover, to tell you the truth, I've already decided to follow the Celestial Emperor's order to annihilate your Blackwind Ridge and capture you to the Lingyan Palace. I'll personally plead for mercy on your behalf and ask the Celestial Emperor to forgive me with my status as a great general. Then I really have to thank Lord True Monarch. Xiao Hua laughed and said, however, this Xiao is a remnant of the Dao sect. I don't dare to associate with Lord True Monarch of the Immortal Palace. True Monarch, you don't need to worry about your former friendship. You should only worry about your vanguard. I'm sure True Monarch already has a plan in mind. No matter how high True Monarch's cultivation is, no matter how fierce this inescapable net is, as long as I'm determined, Kwa Chang's life will be in my hands. That's right. You have the ability to do so. This son has long known about it. Sun Jian nodded and raised his hand, throwing a universe bracelet into the air as he said, this is what I owe you. Take it. I didn't expect Lord True Monarch to be such a trustworthy person. Xiao Hua stretched out the wishful steel staff and picked up the heaven and earth bracelet. He was not afraid of Sun Jian's tricks and directly put the heaven and earth bracelet into the space. Then he said, presumably, once this thing is returned, you and I will no longer have any entanglements. Are you going to make a move? That's right. Xiao Hua, if you are a man, then release Kwa Chang. This son can give you a guarantee. If you defeat this son can let your Blackwind Ridge live. Xiao Hua hesitated. He had seen Sun Jian's strength. Previously, he might be stronger than him, but now, Sun Jian may not be his opponent. But then Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and asked faintly, what if this Xiao doesn't release him? Then, you are not the man this son has seen before. Sun Jian frowned. And even if this son lets you live, this son will kill your Blackwind Ridge until blood flows like a river. Okay, you're a man. Your Immortal Palace is full of men. Xiao Hua waved his hand disdainfully. Puchi, Sun Gang, who had been paying attention to the situation in the distance, couldn't help but laugh. When Xiao Hua said this, the new princess who was concerned about Xiao Hua naturally became a woman. Xiao Hua glanced at the boy and ignored him. Sun Jian's face changed, and he said in a deep voice, so you are determined to cut off all ties with this son. That's right. Xiao Hua nodded, but this Xiao is unworthy. Now that this Xiao has fallen into the hands of the Immortal Palace, this Xiao's life is no longer in this Xiao's hands. Moreover, this Xiao has doubts as to whether True Monarch can save this Xiao's life. In a matter of life and death, this so-called kindness, if it's cut off, then so be it. You don't believe this, son? Sigh. Sun Jian, it's not that this Xiao doesn't believe you. Xiao Hua sighed and pointed around. The tens of thousands of immortal soldiers and generals besieging my Blackwind Ridge must be your subordinates. But can you guarantee that these immortal soldiers and generals are wholeheartedly loyal to you? This Xiao doesn't know how many palaces your Immortal Palace has, and how many generals you have, but this Xiao is sure that there must be someone who leaked the news today. If you have the heart, why did you reveal your relationship with this Xiao at this time? You only need to use the excuse that Kwa Chang was captured by this Xiao to let this Xiao and Blackwind Ridge live. This is a reasonable reason in front of the Immortal Emperor, but you actually said it in front of so many people. Do you want this Xiao's life or Kwa Chang's life? Or do you want your own life? This son knows what you're talking about. Sun Jian said indifferently. But this son is True Monarch Qingyin, personally conferred by the Immortal Emperor and also a general of the Sun Palace. This son does things openly and honestly, and disdains to do such shady things. Yes, it's because you're so open and honest that this Xiao doesn't dare to entrust this Zhao's life to you. Xiao Huan nodded. This is not a fight with real strength. The danger. Perhaps you really don't know. Of course, Sun Jian was not a fool. He raised his head and swept his gaze across the tens of thousands of immortal soldiers, finally landing on Sun Gang's face. Sun Gang jumped in fright and fiercely glared at Xiao Hua, hurriedly saying, "Lord True Monarch, this one—" "No need to say more." Sun Jian waved his hand and said coldly, "What this true monarch has done is worthy of the heavens above, worthy of the earth below, and worthy of the immortal emperor. How you report it is your own business." This, Sun Gang laughed bitterly. He did not expect Xiao Hua to have such a relationship with Sun Jian. If he had known earlier, why would he have followed them? From the looks of it, he might be the key reason why Xiao Hua was unable to escape. Xiao Hua ignored the relationship between the two and indifferently raised Qua Chong. "Lord True Monarch, this is in front of two armies. You can decide for yourself. Do you want Qua Chong to return to the Immortal Palace alive or not? You plan to abandon the disciples of the Black Wind Ridge and escape?" Sun Jian glanced at the Du Tian star formation and said coldly, "Looks like this sun really misjudged you in the past." Xiao Hua said indifferently, "You've only seen it once. What can you tell? As the saying goes, you may know a person for a long time, but not their heart. Besides, this Xiao is full of demons in this Black Wind Ridge. How many disciples can this Xiao have? Those disciples were already killed by you guys in Jiang country. Why should this Xiao care about the life and death of the Black Wind Ridge's demons?" "Lord, True Monarch," Sun Gang rolled his eyes and anxiously said, "Qua Chong is a general of my immortal palace. His identity is not something that this evil Xiao Hua can compare to. In my opinion, why don't we let Xiao Hua go in exchange for General Qua Chong's life? All the demons in the Black Wind Ridge are here. If we kill all of them, we won't go against the immortal emperor's orders." "Shut up," Sun Jian berated. "This true monarch knows what to do. How can a child with a yellow mouth speak in front of two armies?" Seeing Sun Gang shut his mouth in anger, Xiao Hua sighed. It was obvious that Sun Gang wasn't Sun Jian's subordinate. Now that Sun Jian knew him, Sun Gang already had something on him, and Sun Jian still scolded him like this. This kind of upright and plain-spoken person was worthy of being friends, but the chances of this kind of person being framed was also very high. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua's eyes flashed with a fierce light as he looked at Sun Gang. Hiss! Although Sun Gang was small, he was very quick-witted. Seeing Xiao Hua looking at him, his heart turned cold. He hurriedly shrank his body and hid behind the immortal soldier driving the carriage, afraid that he would attract Xiao Hua's attention. At this moment, the Black Wind Ridge was truly cold, as if the tens of thousands of immortal soldiers did not exist. In the air, other than the whistling of the wind, there was only the roaring of fire on the flaming chariot. Sun Jian's gaze was fixated on Xiao Hua, as if his gaze was about to pierce into Xiao Hua's body. "This Sun, I thought you were a peerless hero," Sun Jian said word by word, his tone heavy. "I've always wanted to come down to the lower realms to pay you a visit, but who would have thought that you are actually such an irresponsible person? The cultivators of the Black Wind Ridge who are about to die are the same as this Sun. I didn't see your true face. Since you want to escape, fine. This Sun will risk being punished by the immortal emperor and let you live today. Everyone, open the inescapable net." Sun Jian's order was like a mountain. The immortal general who set up the formation didn't dare to say a word. He slightly raised the formation flag in his hand, and a ray of light shot through the inescapable net. Looking at the way to live, and then looking at Sun Jian's heartbroken expression, Xiao Hua slightly frowned. Sun Jian's words move his heart. After all, Xiao Hua and Sun Jian worked together to kill the strange insect in the void. Xiao Hua's strength had already shown that he was at the lower 5th level of origin energy. If Sun Jian wanted to, he would have already reported to the Immortal Palace. Xiao Hua might not be able to live freely in the future. If Sun Jian wanted to capture him, he would definitely have a hard fight with him. But why didn't Sun Jian reveal his strength to the immortal palace? But at this moment, Xiao Hua didn't have time to think too much. He coldly waved his hand and said, "Lord True Monarch, don't think too much. This Xiao is the vanguard that captured your Sun Palace. You have no choice but to let this Xiao go. Even if you say so much, this Xiao won't accept your kindness. You don't need to accept my kindness. This true monarch disdains to make you accept my kindness." Sun Jian waved his hand. "This true monarch will let you go today, but the next time this true monarch sees you, we'll definitely meet and capture you." Ha ha ha! Xiao Hua laughed loudly. He held the Qua Chong in his hand and calmly flew to the gap of the inescapable net and said, "If you want to see this Xiao, then go ahead. This Xiao doesn't want to see you. Wait until you're no longer a man, then we'll talk." Chapter 38:28. After Xiao Hua finished speaking, he didn't hesitate at all. His body shrunk slightly, and he flew out of the gap in the inescapable net. At this time, although the inescapable net had a gap of several tens of zhang, there were hundreds of engraved chains cruising inside like poisonous snakes. They were waiting for Xiao Hua to be careless and immediately pounce on him to kill him. Xiao Hua flew to the gap and suddenly stopped. He turned his head and looked at the flag bearer with a strange expression. Sure enough, the flag in the flag bearer's hand was slightly trembling. Seeing Xiao Hua's gaze sweep over, the flag bearer's face revealed an unnatural expression. Xiao Hua's left hand shook the motionless Qua Chong in an extreme display of strength. Then he swaggered out of the gap. Lightning flashed around Xiao Hua's body as he prepared to fly in the direction of the Longevity Town. But at this time, several huge rumbling sounds came from all directions of the Black Wind Mountain Range. The entire sky suddenly darkened. Several huge shadows were like distorted shadows cast down from the distant sky. Several terrifying divine senses swept over from the sky in an unbridled manner, and the suffocating aura surged over as well. "Who?" Xiao Hua turned pale with fright. His hand involuntarily exerted strength. Qua Chang's eyes rolled. He was almost crushed to death by Xiao Hua. "Ha ha, little Sun Jian. Although this old man and the others came late, I still saw your defeated appearance. I really didn't expect Master Xiao of the Black Wind Mountain Range to be so powerful. You could still safely escape from 100,000 celestial soldiers." An arrogant voice seemed to come from all directions. It was like a thunderclap falling down. "Sun Jian, don't you feel ashamed? You are the dignified Sun Palace's true monarch Qing Yuan. You actually let someone escape like this. Don't you feel ashamed? Come out. This old man will let you capture this old man and report back." See, Xiao Hua sucked in a breath of cold air. He seemed to understand something and said in surprise, "Could it be the Grand Mist Ancestor?" Oomph. Sun Jian didn't fly out of the inescapable net. Instead, he narrowed his eyes and looked at the rapidly changing sky. He coldly snorted and said, "Just a thief who escaped from the Peng Lai immortal realm. How can this true monarch make a move? Even if you're not afraid of being embarrassed, this true monarch is afraid of dirtying my hands." Daoist Xiao. A rainbow flew over from afar and stopped not far away from Xiao Hua. After the rainbow faded away, Daoist Qing Su's figure was revealed. He cupped his hands toward Xiao Hua and said, "I have come to save you under the orders of the Grand Mist Ancestor." However, it seemed like there was no need for that now. Daoist Master Xiao is indeed the champion of the three armies. 100,000 heavenly soldiers are nothing to him, as expected of the person valued by the patriarch. Hee. Thank you, fellow Daoist Qing Su. Thank you, Ancestor, for your kindness. Xiao Hua replied with a smile. This Xiao didn't expect that Ancestor would send you all to help this Xiao. Nothing else. Hidden immortal Dao cultivators are one family. Daoist Master Qing Su says with a smile. Daoist Xiao is in trouble. How can we just stand by and watch? Now that fellow Daoist is out of danger, Why don't you come with me to pay a visit to the Grand Mist Ancestor? Sigh. I also want to pay a visit to the ancestor. Xiao Hua sighs. However, this Xiao has other important matters. I hope that fellow Taoist can bring eyes, respect, and apologies. When this Xiao has the chance, I'll definitely pay a visit. Taoist Qing Su is somewhat helpless. However, he came a step too late and can't show Xiao Hua any kindness. Therefore, he can't force Xiao Hua. He can only cup his hands and say, "Since that's the case, I won't force you." However, Taoist Xiao, you also saw that the ancestor cherishes the talents of our Taoism. For you, he didn't hesitate to expose his strength, didn't hesitate to borrow the strength of the seniors. If Taoist has time, you'll definitely pay a visit to the ancestor. Yes, this Xiao understands. Xiao Hua nods. This Xiao appreciates the ancestor's intentions. Good, farewell. Taoist Qing Su cups his hands and leaves. After his figure disappears. Ha ha ha. A burst of laughter ripples through the sky. Hurricanes and thick clouds rise. In just a moment, that terrifying aura completely disappears. Seeing that Taoist Qing Su left easily, Xiao Hua heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. He understands that with the Grand Mist Ancestor's character, Taoist Qing Su has the intention to save him. But more importantly, he wants to pull him closer to the Grand Mist Ancestor and let the Immortal Palace force him a little more. Grand Mist Ancestor, it's better to stay away from him. Xiao Hua thinks and hurriedly moves his body, flying towards the Longevity Town. After flying for a while, Xiao Hua turns his head and calls out, "Lord True Monarch, when this Xiao feels safe, this Xiao will release Qua Chong. Don't chase." Xiao Hua's laughter echoes in the air and soon disappears. However, Sun Jian's voice chases after Xiao Hua. "Xiao Hua, if you want to live, stay away from the Grand Mist Ancestor. Otherwise, this true monarch won't need to crusade again. You'll be bitten into pieces by him." Haha, Lord True Monarch doesn't need to worry about this. Xiao Hua's voice is very strange. Great General, seeing that Xiao Hua has left, the immortal general in charge of the formation says in a low voice, "This Xiao Hua is really powerful. This general doesn't dare to act blindly without thinking. When did this true monarch ask you to attack?" Sun Jian says coldly. The immortal general doesn't dare to answer and hurriedly waves the formation flag to fill the gap. Break the formation. Sun Jian retracts his gaze from the distance and looks at the capital Heaven Star formation under his feet. He orders indifferently. His figure flashes and instantly lands on the Sun Chariot. The chariot's flames rise again, blocking Sun Jian's figure. Damn it, the Xiao Hua is too cunning. Not only did he take Qua Chong as a hostage, he also escaped to the Longevity Town. Even if Sun Jian wants to chase, he doesn't dare to. Not to mention, the Grand Mist Ancestor actually sent a 5th or 6th grade Dao Sect cultivator over. Once Sun Jian leaves the inescapable encirclement, he might really be captured by these cultivators. Sun Gang pokes his head out from behind the immortal soldier and looks at Sun Jian behind the flames. He laughs bitterly and thinks, "It seems that true Monarch Qingyuan is really angry. This Black Wind Mountain range is probably going to be a bloodbath." Boom! While Sun Gang is thinking, countless inscription law chains crazily pounce on the capital Heaven Star formation like tyrannical flood dragons. This represents Sun Jian's unusual feelings of shame and anger. Although the capital star formation that Xiao Hua had set up in the Black Wind Ridge was incomplete, it was still a famous defensive formation of the Taoist sect. Under the inescapable attacks of the 100,000 celestial soldiers, this unmanned formation actually managed to hold on for 2 hours before it collapsed with a loud bang. At this moment, Qua Chong, who has already returned, looks at the messy but dead Black Wind Mountain range and is dumbfounded. The Immortal Palace spent so much energy to suppress the Black Wind Mountain range, but actually nothing. Thinking that he was still captured by Xiao Hua, Qua Chong clenches his teeth and flies to the front of the Sun Chariot. He bows and says, reporting to Great General, there is no one in the black. Black Wind Mountain Range. Sun Jian's tone is calm as he orders, destroy all the elemental or veins underground and flatten the Black Wind Mountain Range. Yes. Hua Chong passes down the order, only to see the entire Black Wind Mountain Range shaking. Tens of thousands of inscription law chains shuttles on the ground. As the inscriptions burst one by one, as the majestic pillars of Qi rumbles down, the heaven and earth elemental Qi, like a hurricane, is born from the underground veins. It is the heaven and earth elemental Qi that was destroyed by the inscription law chains and dissipated. Great General, Hua Chong looks at the Black Wind Mountain Range collapsing like tofu and asks in a low voice, since there is no one in the Black Wind Mountain Range, Xiao Hua's disciple must have fled elsewhere. Why don't we search around the Black Wind Mountain Range? Maybe we can find something. My Sun Palace was only ordered to suppress Jiang country and the Black Wind Mountain Range. Now that it has been completed, there is no need to do anything else. Sun Jian replied indifferently. When the Hall of Enlightenment finds the information of the other survivors of the Black Wind Mountain Range, it won't be too late for us to follow orders. Good. Sun Gang cupped his hands and said, I will definitely report this matter to the deacon. Sir, please make a decision. The Black Wind Mountain Range's primordial stone mine was almost completely plundered by Xiaohua. The inescapable net only used an hour to destroy the remaining primordial stones. As Sun Jian activated the Sun Chariot, the 100,000 immortal soldiers returned to the Immortal Palace. Just as the immortal soldiers left, the Confucian cultivators who had been coveting the Black Wind Mountain Range flew over. When they saw the Black Wind Mountain Range changed beyond recognition and the dense heaven and earth elemental Qi in the air, they unconsciously understood. Many cultivators turned and flew away. There were still cultivators who did not give up and escaped underground. However, not long after, all the cultivators flew away. From then on, the Black Wind Mountain Range disappeared from the hidden immortal continent, just like the short-lived Jiang country. After a few months, the black gas that was no longer suppressed by the capital star formation began to seep out again. Gradually, the Black Wind Mountain Range returned to its former state. Tongzhou country, Gu country, and Jiming country all sent troops to investigate. Then, they all tacitly made their own plans for the original Black Wind Mountain Range. This area became a bare mountain range again. It was also at this time that Xiaohua, who had almost finished setting up the soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Great Formation, escaped underground into the metal and wood magnetic space and began to set up the transmission formation. The majority of the transmission formations at the bottom of the Sage River were intact. Xiaohua only needed to refine these intact materials again. Of course, this teleportation array was different from the capital star array, and so on. It needed to be meticulous, but Xiaohua wasn't in a hurry. While he was refining it, he carefully comprehended the array and practiced his divine sense. In this leisurely manner, the entire teleportation array took 5 years to set up. 5 years was not a long time, but it was extremely important for Xiaohua, who especially needed to go into seclusion. In these 5 years, Xiaohua's cultivation in all aspects advanced by leaps and bounds. Although he did not encounter any bottlenecks in his cultivation and reached the point of breaking through, compared to before he went into seclusion, it was incomparable. Within the space of the metal and wood elemental magnetism, a massive teleportation array with a boundless aura had been successfully set up. Xiaohua's figure flew out from the array. As a smile appeared on his face, he took out the Grand Universe Teleportation token from the space. Quick! Xiaohua chanted an incantation and pointed at the Grand Universe Teleportation token. A crystal thread fell from Xiaohua's finger into the Grand Universe Teleportation token. Chapter 3829. Buzz. The Grand Universe Teleportation token in midair made a strange sound. A faint green color began to flash in the void within a 1-foot radius. It looked extremely strange. As the strange sound appeared, an even greater movement rippled in the void. The void swelled as though Xiao Hua was using green seal text. Ah, Xiao Hua was a little surprised. Seeing the teleportation array in this state, how could he not know that the sacrificial refining of this teleportation array was related to the green seal text of soul cultivators? Xiao Hua hurriedly released his soul consciousness. Indeed, several soul strands had appeared around the Grand Universe teleportation token. These soul strands extended out from the Grand Universe teleportation token and entered the void. The grayish-white air current in the void started to revolve around the soul strands. Waves of green seal text sound were emitted from this vortex. Looking at the Grand Universe transference token again, as Xiao Hua activated his technique, it gradually expanded. The dark green brilliance gathered into a ball, and even more soul strands extended out from the void and stuck onto this ball of light. Similarly, even more vortexes appeared around the Grand Universe transference token. In the end, it actually formed a spatial crack that was invisible to the naked eye. Go! Xiao Hua observed and activated his magic power. The Grand Universe teleportation token fell into the teleportation array that was as silent as a monster. Like a spark falling into a withered leaf, the green brilliance of the Grand Universe teleportation token instantly lit up the huge teleportation array. After this brilliance, that strange fluctuation spread out from within the teleportation array and passed through the entire teleportation array in a few breaths. Boom! The ball of light around the Grand Universe teleportation token began to expand again and drown the entire teleportation array inch by inch. As the ball of light expanded, the vortex in the void also pushed the silent teleportation array and began to emit a roaring sound from the inside out. It was like the roar of a monster that had woken up from a deep slumber. Xiao Hua watched as the entire transmission array began to revolve like a giant stone ball. Sounds that sounded like green seal characters began to reverberate within the magnetic space. His brows unconsciously furrowed. Obviously, the teleportation array in front of him was different from the one he had seen in Sky Patrol City. He did not know if his teleportation array was successful. It took a few hours for the Grand Universe transference token's green light to cover the entire teleportation array. Moreover, the entire teleportation array was rotating in different ways. It was as though there was a strange, giant hand pushing it, and it didn't seem like it would stop. Xiao Hua took a deep breath as his hands started to form seals, and a solemn expression appeared on his face. Following Xiao Hua's incantation, the huge ball of light began to slowly recede from the outermost edge of the transmission array. This receding speed was even slower than before. Every inch of movement consumed a huge amount of Xiao Hua's spiritual power. This continued for several days. Xiao Hua's face was pale. With the help of the green-robed Xiao Hua twice, the huge green light finally shrank to the area around the Grand Universe shifting token. Quick! With the incantation for the last time, Xiao Hua's figure swayed, and he actually sat in the air limply. The green light emitted an intense brilliance around the Grand Universe shifting token. A strange rune appeared. This rune was not green seal text, but it was flashing with green light. Puff! The rune landed on the Grand Universe shifting token. The Grand Universe shifting token shook violently for a moment before becoming still. At this moment, all the sounds disappeared, the void disappeared, and the teleportation array stopped moving. It was as though Xiao Hua had never cast a spell. The exhausted Xiao Hua waved his hand, and the Grand Universe shifting token landed in his hand. Xiao Hua scanned it with his spiritual sense, and a strange fluctuation and imprint emerged from it. Xiao Hua understood that this imprint was the location of the teleportation array in front of him. If he wanted to set up a teleportation array that was connected to this teleportation array, he had to use this imprint. Otherwise, he would not be able to connect to this teleportation array. If I'm not mistaken, the teleportation array of my Taoism should be derived from the teleportation tunnel of soul cultivators. Xiao Hua put away the Grand Universe shifting token. As he closed his eyes to rest, he thought to himself, the teleportation tunnel of soul cultivators that I saw in the Misty Mountains is the real teleportation array. The teleportation tunnel of soul cultivators looks simpler than this teleportation array, and the distance is also longer. Unfortunately, there seems to be no method to set up a teleportation tunnel in the millions of Meng Mountains. Who knows where this secret technique is lost? Also, after 5 years of cultivation, with the support of the Netherworld fruit, soul cultivator Xiao Hua's 9 heavens of spirit origin had long reached the peak of heart heaven. But for some reason, the gap between heart heaven and soul-forming heaven was so tenacious. Even with the help of Whitey, he could not break through. What should he do? After all, the gap between heart heaven and soul-forming heaven is not a simple bottleneck. From the perspective of soul cultivators, it is the difference between soul scholars and shamans. There must be some secrets that I don't know about. Soul cultivators, soul cultivators. Even if I am about to reach the shaman realm and enter the 3rd heaven of spirit origin, I am still so mysterious, Xiao Hua had consumed a lot of magic power this time, so he had to rest for more than a month to recover. After he put away the spirit stones he needed for the teleportation array, he circulated his magic power and left the magnetic space. Looking at the faint black fog lingering within 100-li radius, Xiao Hua was very satisfied. He knew that there would be very few cultivators coming here in the future. Finally, Xiao Hua released his soul sense and carefully scouted the area within 1,000-li radius. After confirming that there was no immortal palace, he flew towards the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Xiao Hua's several years of closed-door cultivation were not just for setting up the teleportation array and cultivating. Many times he would fly back to the soaring Dragon Mountain range to set up the incomplete Grand Formation. Therefore, when he flew back to the soaring Dragon Mountain range this time, the Fortune Gate's disciples did not know what he was doing outside. They just thought it was a simple trip. Although the soaring Dragon Mountain range's Grand Formation was not as detailed as the teleportation array, it covered a large area. It was also different from the Black Wind Ridge's Capital Star Formation. After Xiao Hua returned to the soaring Dragon Mountain range, it took him more than a month to set up the Grand Formation. On this day, Xiao Hua was in midair. He seemed to be struggling as he made a grabbing motion with his hand. Within 1,000-li radius, the wind and clouds surged, and the scenery turned into a stream of light that fell into his hand. Then, a crisp kacha sound was heard, and a palm-sized crystal plate appeared in Xiao Hua's hand. Xiong Yi and the others who were standing respectfully in the distance and carefully observing Xiao Hua's Grand Formation had an illusion in their eyes. It was as if a layer of mist was gushing out from the soaring Dragon Mountain range. But this mist was thinner than the clear morning fog. After it gushed out, it dissipated with a kacha sound. However, after the mist dissipated, the entire soaring Dragon Mountain range had an indescribable change. Xiong Yi released his soul sense and carefully observed. After a long time, he withdrew his soul sense and said in a low voice with admiration, "Junior brothers, did you notice the difference?" "Of course." Li Xiong lowered his voice. "The scenery of the soaring Dragon Mountain range is completely the same as before, but everything is completely different. Ordinary cultivators can't discover the location of our sect even if they directly flew over the mountain range, let alone flying over the sky. It's even more impossible for them to know that they have already fallen into the Grand Formation. Senior brothers are right. The flowers are not flowers. The mist is not mist. The soaring Dragon Mountain range is no longer the soaring Dragon Mountain range of the past." Fu Ji when prostrated himself in admiration and said, "Master's Grand Formation Dao has greatly improved these past few years. It seems that no matter how much I cultivate, I can't see Master's back." "It's not just the Grand Formation Dao," Imperial Highness Lan said with a smile. "I don't know where Master went to train during this period of time, but every time he comes back, I can feel that Master is different. However, I can't detect Master's realm at all. Let's go, Master is calling us." Seeing Xiao Hua waving his hand in the distance, Xiong Yi hurriedly reminded them. The four of them flew and landed in front of Xiaohua. Master has worked hard. Xiong, Yi, and the others bowed. It's nothing, Xiaohua said with a smile. Setting up a formation is the same as cultivating. Master has been setting up a formation for a few years, and Master has benefited greatly. Yes, Senior Brother was just envious of Master just now. He said that every time he sees Master, he feels that Master is more profound and unfathomable. Already profound and unfathomable. Can it still be more unfathomable? Xiaohua smiled and said, My Taoism's 3,000 great Taos. Each of them is unfathomable. You all have your own opportunities, so there's no need to be envious of Master. When your cultivation reaches a certain level, you'll understand what Master is doing now. Everyone's expression turned cold, and they hurriedly bowed and said, Many thanks for Master's reminder. Xiong, Yi, ring the bell. This old man has something to instruct. Xiaohua waved his hand and ordered. Xiong, Yi didn't dare to be negligent, and hurriedly transmitted his voice. Strangely, although his transmission landed in the soaring Dragon Mountain range, no one responded. Haha, Xiaohua lightly smiled. He waved the crystal token in his hand, and a faint light fell into the mountain range. At the place where the mountain range landed, a red cloud emerged like a fountain and landed right under everyone's feet. Let's go. The great array has already been sealed. Even a fourth grade essence energy would not be able to send a message inside. As the rosy cloud descended, the scenery in front of Xiaohua and the others flashed slightly. The mountain range was still the same mountain range, and the forest was still the same forest. However, between a mountain range and forest, there were some towering palaces standing there. Xiaohua smiled and flew directly to the largest palace on the mountain peak. Before Xiaohua landed, the sound of a golden bell rang in the mountain range. Dozens, or even hundreds of rays of brilliance flew out from various parts of the mountain range and gathered towards Xiaohua's landing spot. The palace that Xiaohua landed on looked dazzling and magnificent. It was close to several hundred zhang tall, and there was a bright and colorful signboard on top of it. The words Fortune Tao Palace were written in large letters. The palace was built with huge blue stones, and many Tao runes were carved on the blue stones. Wisps of heaven and earth yuan qi were constantly pouring into these runes from all directions, and the tens of thousands of runes were flashing with faint waves of Dharma power. Although the waves were obscure, they gave off an indescribable aura that was like a coiling dragon. This palace was naturally the Fortune Gate's main palace, the Fortune Tao Palace. Chapter 38:30. The Fortune Gate was currently entrenched in the soaring Dragon Mountain range, and they had already built more than 100 palaces. However, the Fortune Tao Palace was different. The Fortune Tao Palace was created by the combined efforts of Xiong, Yi, Prince Lan, and Li Xiang, and the restrictions inside were personally laid down by Xiaohua. These runes not only contained the Tao sect's restrictions, but also the Confucian cultivator's dragon qi, occupying the fate of tens of thousands of li around it. When the Fortune Tao Palace's restrictions were completed, there was a faint dragon roar coming from the ground, followed by a 9-colored radiance soaring into the sky. If Xiaohua hadn't used the capital star array to conceal it, it would have attracted the greed of the Confucian cultivators. Xiaohua's figure landed in front of the Fortune Tao Palace, pausing for a moment before walking up the steps. There were 365 steps in front of the Fortune Tao Palace. In the center of the steps was not only engraved with dragons and phoenixes, but also inscriptions of mountains and rivers. Walking up the steps, there was a supreme majesty coming from the steps. Xiaohua had just led Xiong, Yi, and the others up the steps when they saw the black bear spirit, white lion, and golden condor kneeling on the steps to welcome them. The black bear's spirit even shouted, "Welcome, Master, into the palace." Following the black bear spirit's shout, a tsunami of shouts came from the platform above the steps. "Welcome, Master, into the palace." On the platform, There was a black mass of Fortune Gate's disciples kneeling on the platform. Rise! Xiao Hua walked up the platform, turned into a streak of light, and landed in front of the embroidered chair. Thank you, Master. The group of disciples stood up and respectfully stood to the side. Master has orders. Lu Yi's voice rang out. Xiong Yi, Prince Lan, Li Xiang, and the others enter the palace for a discussion. We obey Master's orders. Xiong Yi and the other disciples didn't dare to delay and entered the palace. The interior of the Fortune Dao Palace was similar to the other palaces. There were several huge coiling dragon pillars in the palace, and Xiao Hua sat on the embroidered chair on the high cloud platform. Lu Yi and Wang Yifei stood on the sides of the embroidered chair. Seeing that all the disciples were standing in order, Xiao Hua opened his mouth and said, "This old man established a sect on the hidden immortal continent and established the Fortune Gate on the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Although I don't dare to say that I'm the first to establish a Dao sect, but looking at the current Dao sect Sorrow, I can be considered as a prodigy. This old man is very happy that all of you have chosen to join my Fortune Gate. Today, my Fortune Gate's grand protective formation is finally completed. We can retreat, defend, or attack. Even if the immortal palace attacks again, even if there is an inescapable net, there is no need for you to be afraid. Many thanks for Master's grace." All the disciples were beaming with joy when they heard this. They bowed and saluted. Xiao Hua continued, "Although our Fortune Gate has risked universal condemnation and dared to drag the immortal palace down to the mundane world, our foundation is still lacking. Compared to the hundreds of millions of years of heritage of Confucian cultivators, we are just children. However, a child will eventually grow into a strong man one day. This old man believes that as long as our Fortune Gate disciples work together and cultivate diligently, there will come a day when our Fortune Gate will become the most brilliant Dao sect on the hidden immortal mainland." Although Xiao Hua was encouraging everyone, everyone's blood was boiling with excitement. It was not only because of Xiao Hua's words, but also because of the rapid improvement in their cultivation after entering the Fortune Gate. This was something they could never have imagined, even in their dreams. After Xiao Hua said a few more words and asked about the Fortune Gate's recent affairs, he asked, "Xiong Yi, what's the situation in Yu Province?" "Good, Father knows." Xiong Yi's face lit up with excitement. "Today's Yu Province, no, the entire hidden immortal continent is in a mess." "Oh, what do you mean?" Xiao Hua was already prepared, but when he heard this, he couldn't help but be slightly stunned. He asked, "Could it be that the battle between the immortals and Buddhas in Shi Country's Longevity Town has spread to the entire hidden immortal continent? Not only the battle between the immortals and Buddhas." Xiong Yi laughed. "There's also the 100 schools of thought debate of the Confucian school." 100 schools of thought contending? Xiao Hua raised his head and looked at Fu Jiwen, frowning slightly. After thinking for a while, he said, "Let's talk about Longevity Town first." "Yes, Master." Xiong Yi continued to explain. Just like what Disciple reported to Master earlier, the Longevity Town's immortals and Buddhas have been in an extremely delicate situation. The hidden immortal continent's kind-hearted men and women have been trekking from all over the continent to worship the Guanyin Bodhisattva's golden body. Shi Country's monarch and Chongyan sect have been thinking of ways to stop this, but after all, they couldn't compete with the millions of people's hearts. Therefore, the Confucian cultivators gradually retreated under the pressure of the Buddhist sect. Yu Province's other Confucian cultivators, seeing the Buddhist sect's expansion, began to pay attention to Longevity Town. At the same time, this attention attracted the attention of many Confucian cultivators. When the Immortal Palace was conquering my Black Wind Ridge, the Dongfang family's martial grandmaster brandished his sword to destroy the Guanyin Bodhisattva's golden body. At this time, the Southern Paradise's Manjushri Bodhisattva's golden body suddenly descended to the Rivertide Temple and waved his 9-dragon staff to block the sword. After that, Manjushri Bodhisattva took charge of the Rivertide Temple and investigated the murder of the Rivertide Temple's abbot Lushan. This matter has been going on for almost 10 years. Is there still no result? Xiaohua listened to Xiong Yi's detailed explanation and didn't say much. When he heard this, he couldn't help but feel moved and asked, "How can there be a result?" Xiong Yi's face showed a mocking expression. "Even if there's a result, Manjushri Bodhisattva will definitely not announce it." "Why?" Fu Jiwen was puzzled and asked curiously, "Didn't Manjushri Bodhisattva come to investigate the murder of Lushan?" "It's very simple." Prince Lan laughed. "The Confucian cultivator who killed Lushan was very skillful. That Cloud Forest Temple's master CI Mei couldn't find any clues at that time. After that, Manjushri Bodhisattva couldn't find any clues. There's no need for any clues. The Buddhist sect has many ways to find clues." Fu Jiwen retorted. "Manjushri Bodhisattva naturally has the Buddhist sect's supernatural powers, but why didn't he announce it? The biggest reason is that he couldn't find it. In other words, Thunder Temple's Mahavarakana also couldn't find the real murderer of Shan. Then isn't it done by the Immortal Palace or the patriarch of a first-class family?" Fu Jiwen was dumbfounded. Xiao Huan nodded. "If that's the case, it must be someone who inverted yin and yang and disturbed the five elements. Without extraordinary supernatural powers, it can't be detected." "There's another possibility," Prince Lan said. "Manjushri Bodhisattva found the real murderer, but the real murderer is an important figure of the Confucian cultivator. Once it is announced, the anger of the Buddhist sect's followers in the hidden immortal continent and the anger of the Nirvana world's followers will ignite a war between the immortals and Buddhas. Therefore, Manjushri Bodhisattva didn't dare to announce it." Speaking of this, Prince Lan showed a worried expression. He looked at Xiaohua and said, "Actually, Disciple is worried that not finding the real murderer is not a good thing for our Tao sect. Maybe one day, the Buddhist sect and the Confucian cultivators will pour this dirty water on our Tao sect." Li Xiang nodded. Disciple has also considered this matter. But fortunately, the hidden immortal continent is in dispute with the Confucian cultivators. Although our Tao sect's disciples are weak, they are still useful in restraining the Buddhist sect. The Confucian cultivators won't agree to frame our Tao sect. Other than the country of Xi's longevity town, the hidden immortal continent's 9 prefectures is already burning with the flames of war. Xiong Yi said, "Not only were the Buddhist sect's countries destroyed, but the Confucian cultivators' countries are also fighting with each other. It is said that 10 countries in the Su province were destroyed in one day. The 100 Confucian cultivators each occupy a part of their sphere of influence. It's really a mess. It's also because of the war between the Confucian cultivators and the immortals and Buddhas." Li Xiang smiled. "Our fortune gate has a chance to breathe. Otherwise, Master's big movements might have attracted the attention of the Confucian cultivators." "All right," Xiao Huan nodded. "Our fortune gate's strength is weak. It's already not easy for you to find out so much. We don't care about other people's matters. We only work behind closed doors. Li Xiang, bring me the array plate you use in the Black Wind Mountain." "Yes, Master." Li Xiang respectfully handed over the Black Wind Mountain's array plate to Xiaohua. Xiaohua casually refined the array plate and passed it to Li Xiang. However, Li Xiang did not put the array plate into his cosmos bag after receiving it. Instead, he smiled and said, "Master, Disciple was guarding the Black Wind Mountain, so of course I had to use this array plate. Among us disciples, senior brother Xiong Yi is the leader, so this array plate should be under his control. You have yours, and he has his." Xiaohua waved his hand and took out the crystal plate he had refined earlier. He tapped on it, and the crystal plate split into 2. With a wave of his sleeve, the 2 pieces of crystal plate fell in front of Xiong Yi and Prince Lan. He said, "This array plate is the main array plate to control the soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Grand Array. The 2 of you will control it together. Inside the array plate is the method to control the Grand Array, and there are also other methods to enter and exit the array plate. You 2 can decide on your own." "Yes, Disciple understands," Xiong Yi and Prince Lan carefully answered. Li Xiang's array plate was personally refined by Master. It can freely enter and exit the Grand Array, but it does not have the power to control the Grand Array. Xiaohua explained. Li Xiang was about to accept the array plate, but when he heard Xiaohua's question, he was startled. He hastily took out the array plate and presented it with both hands. He said, "Master, you should take this array plate yourself. Disciple will ask senior brothers to refine another one for disciple." "Master, you." Xiong Yi was also stunned, but he soon understood. "Are you going on a long journey again?" Li Xiang and Xiong Yi's words immediately made their realms clear. Xiaohua smiled faintly and nodded. "Yes, Master will be going on a trip in a few days. I'm afraid this trip will take a long time. The matters of the Fortune Gate will be handled by you 3 senior brothers. It's not that Master doesn't trust any of you, but the Fortune Gate has just been established." Under the eyes of Confucian cultivators and in the midst of the battle between immortals and Buddhas, it's better for us to be careful. As for Li Xiang, although this array plate is somewhat transcendental in the hands of someone who is at ease, wouldn't it have any transcendental effect? Since Master said so, disciple can naturally take it. Li Xiang smiled and said, "But wouldn't it be better if junior brother Fu takes this array plate? Master, why don't you give it to junior brother?" Chapter 38-31. These disciples' cultivations are too low. Xiaohuan naturally understood Li Xiang's indecisiveness and indecisiveness. He smiled and said, "Moreover, they are detrimental to the 3 of you controlling the Fortune Gate. When Master leaves, I will bring them along with me." Master." His Highness Lan was a little anxious. "What do you mean, Are you going to abandon the 3 of us and not control the Fortune Gate? How is that possible?" Xiaohua waved his hand. "Your cultivation is still too low. There are some things you cannot understand. Master felt it when he was setting up the formation. The 3 of you will definitely bring glory to the Fortune Gate in the soaring Dragon Mountain Range. Lu, Yi, and the others will also improve in terms of cultivation following Master. Master is the sect leader. Bringing a few junior brothers with you is also quite ostentatious. This is how it should be." Xiong Yi smiled and added, "Moreover, Master controls the nation weapon. It won't be a problem to take them into the nation weapon in times of danger." "Exactly." Xiaohua nodded. He raised his head to look at the Great Hall and instructed again, "Xiong Yi, Highness Lan Li Xiang, it was not easy to establish our Fortune Gate. Now, it is just a spark. If we want to grow into a prairie fire, we need all of you to work together. Master does not want to see anything that Master does not want to see when he returns. Master's thoughts, I'm sure nascent soul realm cultivators like you, who have gone through life and death trials, can understand." "Master." Xiong Yi, Highness Lan, and Li Xiang hurriedly knelt and said, "Disciple can swear a blood oath to be loyal to our Fortune Gate, and will absolutely not do anything that will harm the Fortune Gate." Sigh. Looking at the 3 disciples who swore a blood oath, Xiaohua sighed inwardly. Although he was very conflicted with the method of refining the natal spirit tablet, now that he thought about it, this method was indeed an effective method to control the entire Fortune Gate. Xiaohua waved his hand and took out 3 jade eye pouches and handed them to the 3 disciples. He said, "Get up. Inside these pouches is the refining method of the natal spirit tablet. Cultivate on your own, and you can refine one for each of our Fortune Gates disciples." "Yes, Master." The 3 disciples stood up and received the jade eye pouches. Also, Xiaohua stretched out his hand and took out a lot of chinquan bags from his bosom. He waved his hand and gave them to the 3 people. He said, "This is what Master obtained from traveling these past few years. You and your disciples should be able to satisfy the cultivation expenses. Our Fortune Gate is not lacking in origin stones. We can simply bid for common items." "This." The 3 of them opened the chinquan pouch to take a look, and they were all dumbfounded. The medicinal pills and spirit herbs inside were things that even if one had primeval stones, they wouldn't be able to bid for. "Master, thank you for your hard work. Thinking about how Xiao Hua still went out to look for these medicinal pills and spiritual herbs while setting up the formation, the three nascent soul cultivators felt extremely grateful. Yes, this is what I should do. When I'm not here, I'll have to rely on you to recruit disciples and guide their cultivation. Xiao Hua stood up and said, Disciple is willing to die 1,000 times. All right, Xiong Yi, come in with me. Everyone else, wait outside. Xiao Hua said as he walked into the hall. Xiong Yi hurriedly followed him into the back of the palace and only returned after 4 hours. Although he was already a nascent soul cultivator, Xiong Yi still couldn't hide the excitement on his face. Just as Royal Highness Lan was about to ask, Xiong Yi blinked his eyes and smiled. Royal Highness Lan, Master wants you in. See. Royal Highness Lan sucked in a deep breath, his heart thumping wildly as he walked into the back of the palace. The three nascent soul cultivators' cultivation was naturally guided by Xiao Hua himself. Not only did Xiao Hua teach them the astral soul and soul severing stage cultivation techniques according to their cultivation realm, he even took out the spiritual artifacts refined by the green-robed Xiao Hua. How could the three nascent soul cultivators not be overjoyed to receive such generous rewards? After settling the three nascent soul cultivators' affairs, Xiao Hua returned to the main hall and sat down. His gaze swept past everyone and landed on Chan Yu and Wu Tian. He said, Chan Yu, Wu Tian, you two are different from other disciples. You can be considered masters in named disciples. Now that my fortune gate has been established, this old man would like to ask you, are you willing to enter my fortune gate? How could Chang Yu and Wu Tian hesitate? They immediately knelt on the ground and kowtowed. Disciple is willing to enter the fortune gate and respect Taoist as master. Good. Xiao Hua nodded. Today this old man officially accepts you two as disciples. But this old man doesn't like any formalities, so I don't want anything like that. We will follow master's decision. Both of them respectfully kowtowed 9 more times before getting up. Congratulations, junior brothers. Xiong Yi and the others were also overjoyed as they stepped forward to congratulate them. Chang Yu and Wu Tian also got up from the ground and happily returned the greeting. After waiting for a while, Xiao Hua said, Chang Yu, you are different from Master's other disciples. You have already reached late-stage Golden Core Realm. You have cultivated the cultivation technique Master gave you for so many years. If it weren't to make up for your previous missteps, you would have been able to conceive a nascent so long ago. This time, this old man's trip is to send the disciples into the country artifact. The origin energy inside the country artifact is not abundant, so it is not suitable for you to cultivate inside. You stay in the fortune gate and ask your 3 senior brothers about your cultivation. Master hopes that when I return, my fortune gate will have another nascent soul cultivator. What Xiao Hua said was the truth. Lu, Yi, and the others were merely at the Qi refinement realm. How much origin energy did they need to cultivate? Chan Yu alone was equivalent to several hundred Lu Yis. Chan Yu bowed respectfully and said, Yes, disciple obeys. This is what you need for your cultivation. Xiao Hua took out 2 spatial pouches and handed them to Chan Yu. After Chan Yu received the spatial pouches, Xiao Hua looked at Wu Tian. Who would have thought that Wu Tian would hastily kneel down and cry out, Master, please don't let disciple stay. Disciple would rather not cultivate than to leave Master's side. Your situation is indeed troublesome. If you stay in the soaring Dragon Mountain range, the entire fortune gate will suffer. Xiao Hua smiled and said, This old man wants to take you away. Poopiu. Wu Tian's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly got up and said, Many thanks, Master. Xiao Hua then looked at the other disciples and said with a smile, Wang Bianfei, go say goodbye to your mother. Tomorrow morning, come with Master to travel the hidden immortal mainland. Yes, Master. Hearing that he was going to travel, Wang Bianfei was ecstatic. After saluting, he quickly left the Fortune Gate Palace. Looking at Wang Bianfei's back, Xiao Hua smiled. Wang Bianfei's mood represented the mood of the other Fortune Gate disciples. although he couldn't make too many promises to them. If they were to cultivate quietly, he could do it. What revitalizing the Tao Gate? Perhaps it would start from the smallest action. Master! Xiong-yi looked at Xiao Hua's smile and suppressed his excitement. He couldn't help but carefully ask, Master, this trip will be different from before. When will you return? Disciple will take charge of the Fortune Gate in Master's place. What should I do? Xiao Hua had vaguely mentioned these things before, and Xiong-yi naturally understood. However, when Xiao Hua guided the cultivation of the three nascent Soul Realm disciples, Xiong-yi suddenly realized that although the Fortune Gate was still within his control, in a few decades or 100 years, it might not be something he could control. He had no choice but to ask for instructions again. However, before Xiao Hua could say anything, the black bear spirit's cries could be heard from outside the hall. Master Ah, you don't want this little one anymore? You're leaving the Fortune Gate with a group of disciples, but you're leaving this little one here? Amidst the cries, heavy footsteps could be heard. The black bear spirit, golden eagle, and white lion ran in from outside the hall and threw themselves in front of Xiao Hua, kowtowing. The dong-dong sound was rather clear in the somewhat quiet main hall. Xiao Hua looked at the three demons and frowned slightly. He understood in his heart that when he was in the Black Wind Ridge, other than himself, the highest cultivation was the Foundation Establishment Qin Xiaoyao. But now, not to mention Golden Core disciples, there were three nascent Soul Realm disciples. The Black Bear Spirit and the other two demons' status in the soaring Dragon Mountain range was getting lower. Moreover, he was going to travel, and these demons could only be mountain guards. Their importance was getting lower and lower. The other demons were better, but the Black Bear Spirit, Golden Eagle, and White Lion might not be able to stand the loneliness. Especially the fickleness of human nature. The three demons might not be able to understand. They might even start a dispute with Xiong-yi and the other human cultivators. Forget it. Xiao Hua's thoughts turned, and he smiled. You three get up, this old man will take the three of you out to travel. Really? Old master. The black bear spirit raised his head, his bare face full of tears. Beside him, the golden eagle and white lion were also surprised. If you three leave, how will the demons be arranged? This old man will not take them out to travel. Xiao Hua asked. The black bear spirit did not even look at the golden eagle and white lion, and hurriedly said, Old master, this little one's boy, Qin Xiaoyao, Jiangming, Qin Xingyi, and Jiang Haodong are all good. If possible, this little one will let these disciples lead the little one's boy. This little one too. The golden eagle and white lion hurriedly agreed. Now that old master has made the Fortune Gate impregnable, this little one does not need to patrol. Just let Qin Xiaoyao and the others be in charge of these boy. Xiao Hua nodded and ordered, pass down this old man's decree. Order Qin Xiaoyao and the others to take over the Fortune Gate's disciples. In addition, Black Bear, Golden Eagle, and White Lion, you all must obey Qin Xiaoyao and the other disciples' orders. If there is anything you don't agree with, kill without mercy. Yes, old master. Black Bear and the other two demon beasts' hearts trembled, and they hurriedly complied and retreated. Xiong-yi. Xiao Hua looked at Xiong-yi and said, If this master's departure goes smoothly, I estimate I will return in a few years, but if it doesn't, I'm afraid it will take more than a few decades. In fact, you should understand that if this master is not in the Fortune Gate, this soaring Dragon Mountain range is very safe. As for how the Fortune Gate will develop, this old man will still say the same thing when I accepted you into the Fortune Gate. If you want a chance, this old man will give it to you, no matter how big it is. As long as this old man has the ability, this old man will definitely give it to you. But, Xiao Hua's tone turned cold again, but, once you enter my Fortune Gate, you are a Fortune Gate disciple. Remember not to cause trouble, brothers fighting each other. This disciple understands. Not only Xiong-yi, but Li Xiang and Lan also bowed and answered. Chapter 38-32. Xiong-yi, these guards are old friends of my Black Wind Mountain range. Don't treat them lightly. Xiao Hua nodded slightly and instructed, "Of course, the demonic beast race is not our human race, so this old man doesn't dare to judge them. If there are any abnormalities, there is no need to hold back. The safety of our Fortune Gate disciples is the most important." "Yes," Xiong Yi hurriedly replied. "The disciple understands." Xiaohua pondered for a moment and felt that there was nothing else to say. He stood up and said, "This old man will not say much. The hidden immortal mainland is only so big. If there are any abnormalities, this old man will be able to hear them. With this old man's ability, it is not impossible for me to rush back in time." Xiong Yi and the others naturally did not know that there was a transmission array in the Black Wind Mountain range. When the time was ripe, Xiaohua might set up another transmission array in other places. If he wanted to return, it would be a blink of an eye. "Respectfully send off, Master." The group of Fortune Gate disciples bowed on the soaring Dragon Mountain range and said in unison. Xiaohua sent Lu Yi, He Xiong, and the others into the Kunlun mirror and flew into the air. With a flick of his sleeve, all the disciples involuntarily stood up and said, "All of you, cultivate in peace. Don't let this old man be disappointed when he returns." With that said, Xiaohua's figure turned into a gust of wind and disappeared into the sky. When Xiong Yi and the others hurriedly got up and opened a corner of the array to check, there was no trace of him. Master's escape technique has reached perfection. Although Xiong Yi and the others did not dare to release their divine sense, they could not help but whisper after looking at each other. Yes, with Master's cultivation, in the future, he will definitely catch up to that person. Li Xiong narrowed his eyes and said, "As Master's father's disciples, we must not lose his face. Two junior brothers, let's discuss a plan." Xiong Yi closed the capital star array and said in a low voice, "Not only will we take turns to control the Fortune Gate and cultivate, but we will also develop the Fortune Gate's forces, putting aside the fact that Xiong Yi, Prince Lan, and Li Xiong, the three nascent soul cultivators of the Fortune Gate, have begun to make plans for the Fortune Gate, consolidating their respective forces. The Fortune Gate had begun to embark on a difficult path of development. After Xiao Hua left the soaring Dragon Mountain range, he first chose a direction that he believed to be correct and flew for several hours before revealing himself. With a wave of his hand, the Pegasus and flying chariot landed in midair. Then, he released Wu Tian and Fu Jiwen from the Kunlun mirror. Xiao Hua looked at Wu Tian and asked with a smile, "Wu Tian is the chi of heaven and earth in the Kunlun Wonderland abundant." Wu Tian did not dare to be negligent. He bowed and said, "Yes, teacher knows that when I first entered, the heaven-earth yuan chi inside was not abundant. Now that I have entered again, I can feel that it is gradually recovering. Although it's not enough for disciple to cultivate freely inside, disciple believes that as long as time passes, it will definitely be possible." Xiao Huan nodded slightly and frowned slightly, as if he was thinking about something. Wu Tian didn't dare to ask more. He looked at Fu Jiwen, standing at the side with his hands folded. Now, other than the space that could accommodate Wu Tian and the other disciples, Xiao Hua could also accommodate the Mountain River Seal and the Kunlun Mirror. Needless to say, the Mountain River Seal was a nation weapon that purely suppressed people. There was no chi of heaven and earth inside. The Kunlun Mirror was somewhat similar to the space. There was a Kunlun Wonderland hidden inside. The Kunlun Wonderland could provide chi of heaven and earth for Wu Tian and the other disciples to cultivate. However, the Kunlun Wonderland had already been destroyed when the Kunlun Mirror shattered. Xiao Hua had obtained the fragments of the Kunlun Mirror from the Dawnrain continent and the hidden Immortal continent and refined them bit by bit. The Kunlun ruins was slowly recovering into the Kunlun Wonderland. However, judging from the current situation, the Kunlun Mirror would not be too far away from recovering its power. However, if the Kunlun Wonderland's barrier wanted to recover, it was not a simple matter. When Xiao Hua was refining the Kunlun Mirror, he had already tried to comprehend the barrier of the Kunlun Wonderland. He knew that it was an extremely mysterious spatial barrier that was somewhat similar to the so-called Spirit Gathering Formation. Of course, if it was purely a high-level Spirit Gathering Formation, Xiao Hua believed that as long as his cultivation increased in the future, he would definitely be able to refine such a miraculous spatial spirit artifact. However, when Xiao Hua was refining the Kunlun mirror, he discovered that this barrier was not as simple as he thought. There were faint traces of an innate divine restriction in this barrier, but it was also very different from what he thought it was. Moreover, this difference made it extremely difficult for Xiao Hua to comprehend. In fact, after a long time, it would even give Xiao Hua a strange and even terrifying feeling. Xiao Hua did not know if this feeling came from the barrier itself or if it was born from his insufficient cultivation. Therefore, after trying to comprehend it a few times, he did not dare to think deeper. Of course, apart from the unfathomable nature of this barrier, the lack of qi of heaven and earth was also a shortcoming of the Kunlun Wonderland. Therefore, Xiao Hua asked Wu Tian about his feelings. After hearing Wu Tian's words, Xiao Hua knew that it was not a long-term plan to leave Wu Tian in the Kunlun Wonderland. Not only would this delay Wu Tian's cultivation, but it would also interfere with the cultivation of Lu Yi and the others. Xiao Hua's space was the best choice, but Xiao Hua had a great worry. That was, the qi of heaven and earth in the space was completely different from the Xiaoyu continent and the hidden immortal continent. Any nascent soul cultivator from outside the space would collapse when they entered the space. Xiao Hua did not dare to take the risk of letting Wu Tian and the others enter the space to cultivate. In the end, they would not be able to come out of the space. In this space, I have also received Dao disciples before. Cui Hongshan, Zhenming Wei, Su Qing, and other Imperial Thunder Sect disciples have also stayed in there for several years. Moreover, after they came out, their cultivation had greatly improved. This shows that this space is suitable for cultivators to cultivate. However, the problem is that they are only qi refining disciples. The strongest is only foundation establishment, far from nascent soul. This Xiao also does not know if they can come out of the space after cultivating to nascent soul. If they can't come out, wouldn't this Zhao's disciples only be able to guard this unformed space? Could it be that they're like those lonely disciples of fellow Taoist green robe? Those lonely disciples have both men and women. If they can't cultivate, they can still reproduce in the space and create a world of cultivation. When Xiao Hua thought of this, his eyes suddenly lit up. He clapped his hands and said with a smile, "This Xiao understands. Benevolent great master, this Xiao has to thank you. If I didn't meet you, this Xiao wouldn't be able to understand the relationship between the physical body and nascent soul." That's right. In the cultivation of Buddhism, the physical body and sarira are two things that are difficult to reconcile. Buddhism has always emphasized on abandoning the physical body to become sarira. However, our Tao sect is somewhat different. The physical body is very important in the early stages of cultivation. Tao sect cultivators rely on the physical body to sense the world's origin energy and rely on the meridians of the physical body to refine the world's origin energy. However, after reaching nascent soul, the nascent soul itself has two meridians, one yin and one yang. These two meridians directly communicate with the world. At this time, the physical body may no longer be important in cultivation. Even after losing the physical body, the nascent soul can still exist and can still cultivate the so-called scattered nascent soul. However, at this time, the physical body is another kind of protection. The physical body is a boat floating in the turbulent water, and the nascent soul is the passenger on the boat. No matter what space, no matter what changes the world's origin energy, it can protect the nascent soul. Therefore, the physical body is also the proof that our Tao sect cultivators can ascend to the immortal world. Because the world's origin energy in the immortal world is definitely different from the hidden immortal continent and other cultivation worlds. As for the scattered nascent soul, it can only be reconstructed after ascending to the immortal world, or use some secret technique to prevent the nascent soul from collapsing while reconstructing it bit by bit. If that's the case, within this Zhao space, although the world's origin energy is different from the hidden immortal continent, it can still allow Wu Tian and other disciples to cultivate inside. Seeing Xiao Hua first frown and then clap his hands in joy, Wu Tian and Fu Jiwen were somewhat baffled. However, the two of them didn't dare to make a sound and lowered their heads to look at the flying carriage below them. Wu Tian, Xiao Hua took out the Kunlun mirror and said with a smile, "Master has thought of a way to make the world's origin energy in the Kunlun mirror abnormally abundant. However, your cultivation method may have to be changed. I will listen to Master's instructions." Wu Tian naturally didn't have any objections. Immediately, Xiao Hua pretended to refine the Kunlun mirror and then dictated some cultivation methods to Wu Tian for him to comprehend. His mind entered the space, and in a corner of the space, he created a Kunlun fairyland that was exactly the same as the Kunlun mirror. In fact, fellow Taoists should have done this earlier. Green-robed Xiao Hua's figure appeared in front of Jade Archive Xiao Hua and said with a smile, "Not to mention the Fortune Gates disciples in the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Even those demonic beasts in the legacy world should be taken in." Green-robed fellow Taoist is wrong. Jade Archive Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, "Although this space can cultivate, after all, it's our space, not the Dawn Rain continent, nor the three continents. Right now, you and I can't control the fate of others. I can't make decisions for others without permission. As for the demonic beasts in the legacy world, I presume fellow Taoist hasn't forgotten about the spirit-devouring bugs in the profound water palace. All right, I also know what fellow Taoist is thinking. Anyway, this space is so big and has so many uses. Fellow Taoist should make use of it as much as possible." Green-robed Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, "I will go and teach my disciples. When the time comes, I want to see whose disciple is more powerful." Jade Archive Xiao Hua smiled bitterly and said, "Aren't they both our disciples? What's there to compare? Moreover, these disciples of yours have been cleansed since they were young. They have been tempered by lightning strikes and shaped by lightning water. I'm afraid these disciples of I can't compare." "Huh?" Green-robed Xiao Hua laughed complacently. He cupped his hands and disappeared. Jade Archive Xiao Hua's mouth also revealed a trace of a smile. What green-robed Xiao Hua could use, he could also use. Lu Yi and the others' aptitudes were far superior to green-robed Xiao Hua's disciples. How could over 10,000 disciples surpass them? Rumble. Just as Jade Archive Xiao Hua was about to leave, an indescribable muffled sound of thunder suddenly came from the starry sky. The entire starry sky slightly distorted, and the karmic hand slightly swayed. An obscure fluctuation that only Jade Archive Xiao Hua could comprehend fell into his body. Jade Archive Xiao Hua's face changed greatly. Chapter 38-33. In an instant, Jade Archive Xiao Hua's figure also swayed, like a lamp in the wind. After a few times, Jade Archive Xiao Hua's figure became clear, but at this time, Jade Archive Xiao Hua's face was pale. What? Is there going to be a disaster? Jade Archive Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and looked at the karma hand that had hidden in the starry sky. He whispered bitterly, "This disaster is too big to be stopped. If it's not handled properly, it's inevitable that I'll end up dead. Where did this disaster come from? Is it Dragon Island? Or the Immortal Palace? Or something else? And this disaster can't be avoided. Even if I go into seclusion, this disaster will come. Could it be the Immortal Palace? That's impossible. Although I escaped from the Immortal Palace's attack that day, my cultivation was only at the late Yuanying stage. With Sun Jian's character, he wouldn't exaggerate. How could it attract the attention of the Immortal Palace? Could it be the trip to the Dragon Palace? No, it doesn't seem like it. If there's a problem with the trip to the Dragon Palace, I just have to go into seclusion. Forget it. Jade Archive Xiao Hua thought for a moment, but still had no clue. In particular, the message from Karma Xiao Hua was too vague. Jade Archive. Xiao Hua only felt that this crisis was very special, but he couldn't tell how special it was or when it would happen. Be careful. When it happens, I'll deal with it by sticking to the status quo. My cultivation is still not enough. Xiao Hua's mind came out of the space. He opened his eyes and looked at the clouds and mist around him. He took a deep breath and sighed secretly. This warning is so vague. It's not only because the origin of the disaster is unclear, but also because karma Xiao Hua can only deduce in the space. If I can perform the complete karma method, I may be able to find some clues. Master, this method is very similar to the one I practiced before. Seeing Xiao Hua open his eyes, Wu Tian said carefully, "It's just that the absorption and refining of the qi of heaven and earth are a bit strange. I've completely mastered it." Good. Xiao Hua collected his thoughts and nodded. Master will call Lu, Yi, and the others out. Tell them about the differences in cultivation in detail. Wu Tian was a Jindan cultivator, so explaining the cultivation method to Lu, Yi, and the other aura refining disciples was naturally as easy as lifting a finger. When Xiao Hua released the group of disciples from the Kunlun mirror, Wu Tian carefully explained the differences between the two cultivation methods. Lu, Yi, and the others were all peerless geniuses, so they only needed to ponder a little bit to understand. However, they didn't know why Xiao Hua suddenly asked Wu Tian to teach them such a strange cultivation method. Xiao Hua didn't explain much and said to Wu Tian, "Bring the group of junior brothers back to the Kunlun mirror first and test out the new cultivation method. Come out after that. I still have some things to ask you." "Yes, master." After Wu Tian respectfully agreed, Xiao Hua put them into the Kunlun wonderland in his space. Fujiwen. Xiao Hua turned around and asked, "Where are we now?" When Fujiwen heard this, he couldn't help but feel surprised. He used the eye-clearing technique to take a look and whispered, "Master, this place is very unfamiliar. I don't know either, but it seems that it should be within Yu Province." "Oh, why are we still in Yu Province?" Xiao Hua didn't find it strange when he heard this. Yu Province was originally big, and he was flying around blindly before, so it wouldn't be strange even if they were circling around the soaring Dragon Mountain range. "Go and inquire about it," Xiao Hua instructed. Not long after, Fu Jiwen flew back and said with a smile, "Master, we're still in Yu Province. Right now, we're in the territory of Donglin country. Around us are Qizhan country, Lin country, Xian country, and Yifeng country." Yifeng country? Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows. He immediately thought of the high-spirited Yu Zhongquan who wholeheartedly wanted to be a ranger. "Master, do you have any goals for this experiential learning? Or just walk around casually?" When Fu Jiwen saw that Xiao Hua only let him and Wu Tian out, he knew what Xiao Hua meant and asked carefully. "Master wants to go to the North Sea." Xiao Hua thought for a moment and said, "However, there's still enough time. Take Master to Yifeng country." "Yes, Master." The North Sea was naturally very far away for Fujiwen. Fujiwen knew that he might not be able to reach there in a short time, even if he rode on a Pegasus. However, since Xiao Hua said there was enough time, then there was enough time. He bowed and answered, then raised his hand and patted the Pegasus, indicating that it should fly to Yifeng country. Watching Fu Jiwen riding on the Pegasus, Xiao Hua waved his hand again. The black bear, golden eagle, and white lion appeared on the flying carriage. The three demonic beasts looked around and hurriedly knelt down. "Master, do you want us to pave the way for Master?" "No need." Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, "This old master had previously promised all of you that I would find a suitable cultivation method for all of you. When the time is right, I will teach it to all of you." "Many thanks, Master." The black bear spirit and the other two demonic beasts were overjoyed and hurriedly kowtowed. Xiao Hua smiled and helped the three demonic beasts up, saying, "In fact, this old master was planning to test your temperament before telling you. However, now that our fortune gate has just been established, we need all of you to contribute. The stronger you are, the better it is for our fortune gate. Therefore, today, I will teach all of you the cultivation method. Master, this lowly one swears to the heavens that this lowly one is loyal and devoted to Master and the Fortune Gate. The black bear spirit was the most quick-witted. After Xiao Hua finished speaking, he immediately forced out a drop of blood essence from his body and swore the demonic beast alliance. Beside him, the white lion and golden eagle also swore an oath. Seeing the strange fluctuations in the air, Xiao Hua raised his hand and held the 3 drops of blood essence in his hand. He ordered, "Black Bear, bring me the white lion and golden eagle's natal spirit tablets." Natal spirit tablets? The black bear blanked for a second, then understood. He hurriedly took out the jade token that Xiao Hua had used to force the 2 demonic beasts to swear an oath on the Black Wind Ridge. Quick! Xiao Hua waved his hand, and 3 drops of blood essence landed on the jade token. The red light on the jade token disappeared in a flash. Xiao Hua did not return the jade token to the black bear, but kept it for himself. He said, "This old master will take this jade token first. As long as all of you are sincere to our fortune gate and follow this old master will definitely return all of you your freedom after 1,000 years. Hee. Master is speaking outside the box." The black bear laughed. "This lowly one has no ill intentions towards Master. It doesn't matter whether we have this natal spirit tablet or not. If Master likes it, he can take it for 10,000 years. Yes, this lowly one also has the same thoughts." The white lion and golden eagle hurriedly answered, "That's for the best." Xiao Hua smiled as he looked at the black bear. The black bear saw a trace of dark green in Xiao Hua's eyes and felt a sharp pain in the space between his eyebrows. Shortly after, countless totems swarmed into his body. These totems were the demonic bear's cultivation postures, and a series of cultivation secret techniques rippled out from these totems and rushed into his mind. After half a cup of tea's time, Xiao Hua turned his head and looked at the golden eagle. By the time Fu Jiwen stopped the flying carriage in the sky above Yifeng country, Xiao Hua had already sent the demonic beast clan's inheritance suitable for the 3 demonic beasts to cultivate into their minds. Seeing the 3 demonic beasts' bodies tremble slightly, and some inexplicable fluctuations emitted from their bodies from time to time, Fu Jiwen knew that this was an important matter, so he didn't dare to disturb them. He only stood quietly beside the Pegasus. Xiao Hua withdrew his supernatural power and closed his eyes slightly. Ever since he obtained the inexplicable bloodline of the absolute saint in the relic world, his body was constantly undergoing subtle changes. Even starlight power that couldn't be detected by supernatural powers constantly fell into the 13,200 million blood essences in his body. These blood essences were transforming, and the inheritance within the blood essences was also merging into Xiao Hua's bloodline. At the same time, countless demonic beast totems also rushed into Xiao Hua's bloodline and entered the body of the demonic phoenix Xiao Hua. There were so many totems that they had already impacted the demonic spirit Xiao Hua's cultivation. Xiao Hua also took the opportunity to temporarily stop practicing the blood drop paradise technique, allowing these totems to attack his bloodline. Through the demonic spirit Xiao Hua could clearly see that the golden threads in his bloodline were becoming clearer and clearer. Moreover, when the totems attacked, an inexplicable golden light flashed from time to time. Every time it flashed, it unconsciously brought about a kind of comprehension, and there was even a kind of indescribable, obscure fluctuation hidden in the void, its whereabouts unknown. Taking advantage of this gap, Xiao Hua's consciousness once again entered the mysterious dark clouds. However, at this time, the sky seemed to be gloomy. Above the soul cultivator Xiao Hua's head, a heavy dark cloud was tightly pressed there. The dense soul threads were like the texture of granite, revealing a dignified and thick feeling, different from all the soul threads before. How is it? Jade Archive Xiao Hua's eyes narrowed slightly as he looked at this layer of dark clouds that couldn't be detected, and asked in a low voice. Soul Cultivator Xiao Hua appeared in front of Jade Archive Xiao Hua and slightly shook his head. I have tried countless times. This dark cloud is abnormal and abnormal. I can't break through it at all. Granny, Xiaohua, this thing is too strange. Xiaobai waved his huge dragon body and shouted. Even the star splendor sky from before and even the spirit chi sky from before wasn't so difficult to figure out. Don't worry, Jade Archive Xiaohua said indifferently. The gap between the soul-sealing sky and the heartbreaking sky is the difference between a soul scholar and a shaman. From the perspective of my Tao school, it is the difference between a nascent soul and a spirit-severing stage. This layer depends on luck. That's the only way. Soul cultivator Xiao Hua closed his eyes. The endless soul threads around his body began to dance. The faintly discernible fragrance of the underworld fruit floated in the air along with the soul threads in the entire heart-breaking sky. After Xiao Hua's consciousness left the mysterious dark clouds, several hours had passed. The golden eagle was the first to open its eyes. The confusion in its eyes disappeared in a flash, and then it kowtowed again full of gratitude. Many thanks, Master. At this time, the words Master came from the heart more than ever before. The golden eagle understood in its heart that the master of the Tao school in front of it was far from the human cultivator of the Tao school in the eyes of ordinary people. In Golden Eagle, Xiaohua nodded. How much have you forgotten, Master? A trace of fear flashed in the golden eagle's eyes, and it respectfully replied, This little one has forgotten 70%. Chapter 38-34. So much. Xiaohua was slightly stunned. After all, the inheritance he gave the golden eagle and the other two demons was not particularly high level. It was just a relatively low-level inheritance among the 13,200 million inheritances. I've disappointed Master. The golden eagle lowered its head and said in a low voice. Xiaohua thought for a moment and asked, just with the remaining 30%, how far can you cultivate? Master, the golden eagle still had a difficult expression as it replied, 5% of the 30% is gradually disappearing. This little one thinks that at most there will only be 25% left. But with this inheritance, this little one doesn't dare to say how far this little one can cultivate. If there is enough time, this little one can cultivate to the Na-Tian realm. And this old man understands. This is not your fault. You can cultivate as much as you want. Xiaohua nodded. This old man has also left a cave residence for you 3 demons in the Kunlun immortal realm. You can go in and take a look. Many thanks, Master. The golden eagle kowtowed again. After sending the golden eagle into the space, Xiaohua looked at the white lion and the black bear. He was a little curious as to who would wake up first and how much they would forget. After another hour, the white lion opened its eyes. Its reaction was the same as the golden eagle's. However, to Xiaohua's surprise, the white lion had forgotten 60% and was also forgetting more than 5%. It seems that the more you wake up, the more you remember. After sending the white lion into the space, Xiaohua looked at the black bear spirit who was as timid as a mouse with interest. Although Xiaohua had high hopes for the black bear spirit, the black bear spirit's bloodline was not much stronger than the white lion's. After an hour, the black bear spirit also woke up. He only remembered 5% more than the white lion. However, Xiaohua understood that this 5% was enough for the black bear spirit to cultivate to the devouring the sky realm. It was also enough for the black bear spirit's bloodline inheritance to step into the realm of experts. Perhaps this is all this old man can do now. Xiaohua faced the black bear spirit who was now even more devout and smiled. If you want to transcend mortality and become a saint, then this old man can only help you in the future and replace your blood essence. My greatest ambition in the past was to become the king of Black Wind Ridge. The black bear spirit's answer was not out of Xiaohua's expectations. Right now, this little one's greatest ambition is to guard the door for Master. No matter what cultivation this little one has, this little one will always be the black bear that guards the door for Master. Go and cultivate. Xiaohua waved his sleeves and sent the black bear's spirit into space. He said, I'm looking forward to having a great demon saint to guard my cave abode. After sending the black bear spirit into the space, Xiaohua released the golden eagle and asked a few questions. The result did not disappoint Xiaohua. There were 6 solar stars and 3 lunar stars in the space. The power of the stars and the moon was extremely abundant. It was more suitable for demons to cultivate than any place in the 1,000-demon sacred realm. Seeing Xiaohua put the golden eagle back into the space again, Fu Jiwen asked respectfully, "Master, now that we've arrived in Yifeng country, please tell me what to do." However, before Xiaohua could say anything, Fu Jiwen's body suddenly trembled. Then, strands of true qi emerged from the top of Fu Jiwen's head in an extremely disorderly manner. In particular, there were inscriptions condensing into formation talismans that flew out without warning. Some formed flying swords, some formed armor, and some even rushed toward Xiaohua. "Master, save me!" Fu Jiwen's face was ashen, but his trembling limbs did not seem to listen to Fu Jiwen's control. Even when Fu Jiwen called for help, the corners of his mouth twitched. "Sigh." Xiaohua sighed. With a wave of his hand, he restrained Fu Jiwen. With a grab of both hands, thousands of inscriptions fell into his hands and transformed into the shape of a broken scroll. Looking at the flickering clouds of the inscriptions in the scroll, Xiaohua shook his head slightly. "Disciple, what Master was worried about has finally happened." "Master." Fu Jiwen was ashamed. He said, "This disciple is ashamed of Master's guidance." "You can't say that you're ashamed," Xiaohua said, "looking at your diligent cultivation and rapid progress. Actually, Master is very happy in his heart. However, when Master first saw you, you were still a scholar. Your cultivation was just refining essence in a qi, and you could be considered a scholar. In just a few decades, you actually broke through to the realm of great confusion. If this news were to spread, I'm afraid it would scare people to death. Disciple, do you still remember the maze on Cloud Mountain? In Senior Tsang Longzi's cave, you very boldly said to Master that as long as you accumulated a little bit, you could probably enter the realm of great confusion within 3 years. Do you know how surprised Master was at that time? I'm not surprised at your progress, but rather, I'm surprised that you're biting off more than you can chew. Actually, Master felt that if you could enter the realm of great confusion within 300 years, it would already be very amazing. But what could Master say? You had just condensed the heavenly book and were in high spirits. Although Master was worried, Master could not discourage you. Master could only encourage you at that time. Yes, disciple. Fu Jiwen lowered his head, not daring to say anything more. Disciple, the path of cultivation is a long and arduous one. It takes a lifetime to walk it. Perhaps there are some opportunities that can speed up your cultivation, but shortcuts are never the right way. Xiaohua said very seriously. Any action that is short-sighted will lead to failure. Master has always wanted to find time to talk to you about this, but Master also has to cultivate, and Master also has a lot of things to do during this period of time. I only gave you a little reminder in the Fortune Palace, but you didn't seem to hear it at all. Actually, disciple, you don't have to care too much. When Master was cultivating in the past, he was also as aggressive as you, and also suffered a big loss. You were worried about Bayan, and want to enter the realm of great confusion as soon as possible, and want to see Bayan as soon as possible. But if you are too impatient, you won't be able to eat hot tofu, and when the time comes, won't you make Bayan even more disappointed? Yes, disciple understands. Fu Jiwen was sweating like rain. Forget it. Xiaohua waved his hand, and a crystal light fell into Fu Jiwen's body. After a while, Fu Jiwen's body could already move. Master will temporarily seal most of your heavenly books. You have to carefully comprehend these sealed heavenly books, and you have to carefully comprehend the cultivation method of Confucian cultivators. Walk step by step. Don't run. Yes, disciple understands. Fu Jiwen replied in a low voice. Well, don't think too much. Follow Master down and bring Master to find Yifeng country's Yu clan. Xiaohua instructed. Yes, Master. Fu Jiwen calmed his mind and rode the heavenly horse down. When Xiao Hua kept the heavenly horse and the flying carriage, Fu Jiwen had already found the location of the Yu clan. Yifeng country was not big, even smaller than Jiang country. With Xiao Hua's ability, he could completely detect it with a sweep of his divine sense. However, because of the previous warning, Xiao Hua did not want to attract any trouble and did not dare to be careless. He only followed Fu Jiwen outside Yifeng country's capital. Looking at the not-so-majestic city walls and the simple villagers entering and leaving the city gate, Xiao Hua somewhat understood. The Yu clan was not a great family of Confucian cultivators. From the information that Fu Jiwen found out, the Yu clan was only a secondary 7th-rank aristocratic family. The so-called Great Confucian cultivator that came out was probably many years ago. Only this kind of small country would be able to support the Yu clan. Yifeng country's city gate was also guarded by soldiers, and it seemed that the inspection was very strict. Occasionally, there would be some people who looked like spies being arrested. This made the atmosphere in and out of the city gate a bit tense. However, with Xiao Hua's ability and Fu Jiwen's identity as a Confucian cultivator, entering Yifeng country was not a difficult matter. When the two people arrived in front of the Yu residence, Xiao Hua frowned again. The layout of the Yu residence was very large, occupying dozens of acres of land in Yifeng city. There were many pavilions, terraces, pavilions, and pavilions inside. Even the two copper lions in front of the residence gave off a kind of steadiness that had been passed down from generation to generation. However, at this moment, this steadiness was broken by some noisy carriages and people wearing court uniforms and military armor. These people's faces carried some nervousness and respect as they hurriedly shuttled in and out of the wide, open residence gate. Some servants wearing embroidered clothes also followed these people in and out, shouting loudly, as if they were announcing and welcoming them. Xiao Hua had never liked this kind of bustle, so he simply released his soul consciousness and probed inside the Yu residence for a moment. He said to Fu Jiwen in a low voice, "The person Master is looking for is not in the residence. It seems we can only pay a visit." "Yes, Master." "Please wait here for a moment." Fu Jiwen thought for a moment and smiled. This disciple will use the name of an assassin to visit the Yu clan. I wonder whom Master is looking for. Yu Zhongquan, the young master of the Yu residence. Xiao Hua replied, "This child is fated with this old man. Today, I have specially come to settle the karma." This disciple understands. It seems this disciple will have another little junior brother. Fu Jiwen said with a smile as he took out the name of an assassin from his bosom. If it's fated, it should be a little junior brother and a little junior sister. Xiao Hua's eyes narrowed as he replied thoughtfully. Fu Jiwen took out his name of an assassin and very politely smiled at the servant who came to greet him. "This one is Fu Jiwen. I have specially come to pay a visit to the residence's young master, Yu Zhongquan. Please announce him." Upon hearing that Fu Jiwen had come to pay a visit to Yu Zhongquan, the servant's respectful face suddenly revealed a trace of strangeness. However, the servant didn't accept the name of an assassin and only politely replied, "So it's young Master Fu. This one has been disrespectful. It's just that my family's young master isn't in the residence, so this one has no way of announcing. I hope young master can understand." "Oh, where did young master you go?" Fu Jiwen was slightly surprised and asked curiously, "Of course, young master, you only said that he could find him in Yifeng country." The servant smiled apologetically. "This one doesn't know where my family's young master went." "AI, since that's the case, please bring this one's name of an assassin to Uncle Yu's table. This one will ask him personally." Fu Jiwen saw that the servant didn't intend to announce his arrival, so he could only say it himself. The servant was a bit embarrassed and smiled apologetically. "It's not that this one doesn't want to announce it to young master. Today, there is a military mission in the residence. Other than the officials in Yifeng country's imperial court, no one is allowed to announce it to young master. So that's how it is." Fu Jiwen frowned slightly. After thinking for a while, he asked again, "Then if this one wants to know where young master you went, what should I do?" Chapter 38-35. This. The servant hesitated and sized up Fu Jiwen again. Fu Jiwen rolled his eyes and casually touched his waist with one hand. He took out a small silver ingot and placed it in the name token. He handed it over again and smiled. "This one is indeed young master Yu's old friend. This time, I came to fulfill our previous agreement." The servant was extremely quick-witted. With a pinch of his hand and a slight curl of his finger, he stuffed the silver into his sleeve even more nimbly than Fu Jiwen. Immediately after, he smiled apologetically and said, "Since young Master Fu is a close friend of my young master, then I would like to ask young Master Fu to report to the left side door. That is where the daily family affairs of a Yu residents are reported." Thank you very much." Fu Jiwen kept the name token and was about to turn back when the servant hurriedly said, "Oh right, young Master Fu, if you want to know about my family's young master, remember, don't say that you're my young master's close friend. Just say that you're here to settle accounts with my young master." "Oh?" Fu Jiwen stared blankly and asked curiously, "Why is that?" However, at this moment, another military horse galloped over. The person on the horse held a yellow scroll in his hand and shouted, "Urgent report from the king." When the servant heard this, how could he say anything more to Fu Jiwen? He smiled apologetically at Fu Jiwen and hurriedly ran over. Fu Jiwen also knew that this was an important military matter of Yifeng country. It was inconvenient for him to delay. He also turned slightly and returned from the side of the stairs. However, when he raised his eyes to look at Xiao Hua, he was stunned again. He saw that the place where Xiao Hua was standing was empty. Where was Xiao Hua's figure? Of course, in the blink of an eye, Xiao Hua's figure reappeared on the spot, as if he had never disappeared. In an instant, Fu Jiwen understood that he had not seen wrongly, nor had his master disappeared. Instead, it was his master who had merged with all things in the world. Even a casual thought from him could not be detected by people with shallow cultivation. "Master." Fu Jiwen walked in front of Xiao Hua and was about to speak. Xiao Hua nodded and said, "Master understands. We'll go to the side door." "Okay." Seeing his own master so condescending to go to the side door, Fu Jiwen felt more and more that this Yu Zhongquan was important to Xiao Hua. He hurriedly agreed and walked in front. The side entrance of a Yu residence was not small. Although it did not have the copper lion to suppress evil, the tightly shut vermilion door and the neat pine and cypress trees on both sides of the vermilion door also gave off a solemn and dignified air. Fu Jiwen walked to the front of the vermilion door and lightly knocked on the brass ring. In a moment, an elderly servant poked his head out. Fu Jiwen was about to take out his name inscription, but when he thought about what the servant had said, his face turned cold and he shouted, "Is this the Yu manor? Where's Yu Zhongquan? Who is young master? Why are you looking for my young master?" The old servant's expression didn't change. He opened the door slightly and asked with a smile, "You don't need to know who I am. You just need to know that I'm here to settle accounts with Yu Zhongquan." Fu Jiwen decided to play along. "As for what it is, you can just call Yu Zhongquan over and you'll know." "Sigh, young master. Please calm down, young master." The old servant didn't find it strange and hurriedly bowed. "My young master is not in the residence right now. This old servant apologizes to young master on behalf of my young master. This has nothing to do with you." Fu Jiwen couldn't bear it, but he still said, "You just need to tell me where Yu Zhongquan went." "This old servant doesn't know where my young master went." The old servant replied fluently. "If young master needs any compensation, feel free to ask." "No need," Fu Jiwen said resolutely. "Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. This humble one will only look for Yu Zhongquan." "Sigh. Then please wait a moment." The old servant sighed again and closed the door. He turned around and seemed to be reporting. Fu Jiwen turned to look at Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua was also somewhat helpless. After all, he was here to form good karma with the Yu family. Forceful means might be effective, but Xiaohua always felt that it was disrespectful to the Yu family. He wouldn't be able to explain himself to Yu Zhongquan in the future. A moment later, there was a sound from behind the vermilion door. Xiaohua's soul sense swept over, and a strange expression immediately appeared on his face. Sure enough, when the vermilion door opened again, a family guard wearing embroidered clothes came out. Wasn't this one of the two family guards who escorted Yu Zhongquan back then? However, those two family guards didn't report their names from beginning to end, so Xiaohua didn't know their names. The family guard pushed open the door and looked at Fujiwen. He frowned and said, "This young master, I don't know how my young master offended you. My young master isn't here now, so if you have anything to say, just say it. As for my young master's whereabouts, forgive me for not being able to tell you." Not waiting for Fujiwen to make up a story, Xiaohua's figure flashed and arrived in front of the family guard. He opened his mouth and said, "It is this Xiao who came to look for Yu Zhongquan. Do you still remember this Xiao?" Xiaohua's sudden appearance in front of the family guard gave him a fright. The family guard abruptly retreated, true energy actually appearing around his body. He shouted with extreme vigilance, "You, who are you?" "En?" Xiaohua smiled and looked at the family guard. He said expectantly, "Could it be that you have already forgotten? When Yu Zhongquan ran away from the marriage, you, seventh uncle Yu, and another family guard went to Bronze Pillar Country to chase after him. You even ran into bandits on the way. That..." The family guard looked at Xiaohua up and down, somewhat puzzled. He smiled and said, "This Daoist Xiao, this one doesn't know what Daoist Xiao is talking about. When did he run away from the marriage?" Xiaohua's eyeballs almost fell to the ground. He said in shock, "Yu Zhongquan, how many times did he run away from the marriage?" "AI Daoist Xiao should know. Every time my young master ran away from the marriage, he was chased back, and every time he was chased back, he would run away again after a few days," the family guard said with an extremely bitter smile. "To tell the truth, this one already can't remember how many times my young master ran away from the marriage. Granny, this Yu Zhongquan, isn't he too strange?" Xiaohua really didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had only heard of people running away from the marriage, but he had never heard of people running away from the marriage to the end. He really didn't know if Yu Zhongquan's ambition was to be a ranger or to run away from the marriage. Seventh uncle also chased after him a few times in the beginning. The family guard sighed again. Later, seventh uncle also got old and couldn't catch up anymore. He let this one and Yu Guanghui chase after him together. But later, Guanghui died in the hands of a demon when he encountered bandits. Now, only this one is left. AI, this one hasn't received any news from the young master yet. Otherwise, this one would have already chased after him. What? Even Fu Jiwen, who was next to him, couldn't help but exclaim, "Could it be? Yu Zhongquan ran away from the marriage again?" While speaking, Fu Jiwen turned to look at Xiaohua, not knowing what to say. Xiaohua was even more dumbfounded. Previously, he had already thought highly of Yu Zhongquan, but he still didn't expect that. Yu Zhongquan still hadn't married that young lady from the Chong family, and was even running away from the marriage. That Yu Zhongquan hasn't married yet. Is it still that Chong family's young lady? Xiaohua probed again. When the family guard heard Xiaohua's question, some of his original doubts were reduced. He nodded and said, "What Taoist elder said is right. It's still that young lady, but now she has become the Chong family's young lady." Xiaohua was quite puzzled and asked curiously, "Since Yu Zhongquan isn't willing to marry the Chong family's young lady, then why does the Yu family insist on forcing him to marry the Chong family's young lady?" Taoist elder doesn't know. The family guard seemed to have metaconfidant. He almost pulled Xiaohua's hand and confided, "Now it's no longer up to my Yu family. Previously, my family's young master ran away before the engagement. After being chased back by seventh uncle Yu, he got engaged to the Chong family's young lady. After the engagement, the young master ran away from home several times. The Yu family didn't want to force the young master too much, so they discussed breaking off the engagement with the Chong family. The Chong family saw that a forcefully picked melon isn't sweet, so they also wanted to break off the engagement. But although that Chong family's young lady hasn't seen my family's young master, she She is willing to be loyal to one person and won't marry anyone other than my family's young master. For so many years, Yu Zhongquan and Chong family's young lady have never seen each other. Xiaohua immediately felt that it was inconceivable, almost interrupting the family guard's words. That's not it. The family guard explained. This was what the Chong family's young lady said at the beginning. Later, my family's master thought that it might be because the young master hadn't seen the Chong family's young lady's appearance, so he refused. Later, he simply tied up the young master and brought him to see the Chong family's young lady. But even after seeing her, the young master was still unwilling. Could it be that the Chong family's young lady is vulgar? Xiaohua seemed to understand. Taoist elder is wrong. The family guard shook his head and said, the Chong family's young lady is a famous beauty in Xian country. She is proficient in zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. How could she be vulgar? Then that's strange. Xiaohua was greatly puzzled. Fu Jiwen smiled. Master, it's said that a tortoise meets a mung bean, and their eyes match. I think these two people are not fated to be together. Not fated to be together? Xiaohua frowned. From the current situation, it seemed that it was very different from what he had imagined. How should I address you, my dear friend? Fu Jiwen smiled. It seems that you're also a trusted aide of the Yu family. Every time young Master Yu escapes, travels, you are the one who goes to find him. Oh, I'm Jaime. The family guard smiled bitterly. Of course, I grew up with young Master. But why do I have to go down to find young Master? It's not because of this. It's because my face is very thick. After young Master gets into trouble, I can help him clean up. Fu Jiwen asked curiously, Brother Yu, what do you mean? Sigh, there's something young Master doesn't know. Yu Haiming explained, my family's young master didn't just leave home to escape from marriage. He also wanted to be chivalrous. Every time he goes out, he has to do some good deeds that are neither good nor bad. Every time, he tries to be clever, but ends up making a fool of himself. Just as Yu Haiming said this, he heard a soft and rather dignified cough from behind him. Haiming, who are you talking to? Hearing this voice, Yu Haiming's face immediately turned pale. He hurriedly shut his mouth. Without turning around, he immediately shouted, Master, why did you come out from the side door? Chapter 38-36. Naturally, Xiaohua had long sensed that someone was coming. At this time, he raised his head and saw the vermilion door open. A tall and sturdy old man, about 60 years old, dressed in embroidered clothes, walked out from inside. Behind him were several guards with swords. Although this old man was slightly old, his spirit was very good. His ruddy face vaguely resembled Yu Zhongquan's. The old man didn't answer Yu Heming's question at all. He coldly snorted and said, This old man is asking you, who are you talking nonsense with? Aren't you afraid of my Yu family's family law? Master, please forgive me. Master misunderstood. Yu Heming hurriedly bowed and said, This is Xiao Daoist and his disciple. Back then, when this little one accompanied seventh uncle to Copper Pillar Country to find a little Gongzi, this little one remembers. Back then, this Xiao Daoist even saved the little Gongzi's life. It's just that Xiao Daoist didn't seem to have changed after so many years. This little one almost couldn't remember. Oh, hearing Yu Heming's words, the old man didn't dare to be negligent. He looked at the young Xiaohua and cupped his hands. So it's Xiao Daoist. This old man will repay the kindness of Daoist for saving my son. However, this old man has some important matters to attend to in the palace. It's not good to accompany Daoist. Heming, go find the accountant and withdraw 1,000 taels of gold. Respectfully give it to Xiao Daoist. Yes, master. Yu Heming didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly replied. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, Master, you seems to have misunderstood the purpose of this Zhao's visit. This master you didn't even tell Xiaohua's name. It seemed that he really had some urgent matters. However, the main meaning was that he didn't really believe Yu Heming's words. Now that he heard Xiaohua speak, he couldn't help but ask with interest, "Oh, if Xiao Daoist didn't come for money and kindness, then why did you come?" This, Xiaohua hesitated slightly. It wasn't wise to speak of his intention to take in a disciple now. However, if he didn't say it now and mention it later, it would give people a misconception. Xiaohua thought of the story between Yu Zhongquan and Miss Chang and said, "This Xiao came to see Yu Zhongquan and see if I can take him as a disciple." "Disciple? You? Are you joking?" Master Yu was stunned. His pair of withered yellow eyes looked at Xiaohua up and down 3 times. Then, he looked at Yu Hemming at the side and said to Xiaohua solemnly, "Daoist Xiao, if this old man didn't see that you have some skills, my loyal servant wouldn't lie in front of this old man. This old man would almost beat you out of here. Although you have the grace of saving my son's life, it is absolutely impossible for my Yu clan's descendant to join the Dao sect. Even if Quan agrees, this old man will never agree. Taoist priest, please." "All right." Xiaohua didn't drag things out. He nodded and said, "Since we're not fated, then this Xiao won't force it." Hemming. When Master Yu saw Xiaohua like this, he was even more like 7th Uncle Yu that day, treating Xiaohua as a swindler. He coldly snorted and said, "In the future, your pair of eyes need to be sharpened. Don't believe anyone who says it's related to Quan. This old man told you to take care of Quan and you just..." Unfortunately, before Master Yu finished speaking, a thunderous voice shouted from afar, "Yu Zhongquan, which one of you is Yu Zhongquan? Get out here for this old man." "I not good." When Yu Hemming heard this, his face changed slightly, and he looked at Master Yu. "What are you afraid of?" Master Yu glared at Yu Hemming and said angrily, "Quickly go and take a look. Could it be that someone is going to tear down my Yu clan?" "Yes, yes." Yu Hemming hurriedly agreed and ran towards the front door of the Yu clan. Boom! Before Yu Hemming could turn around the pine tree, he heard a loud noise. Several tall and straight trees were uprooted and flew into the air. Even the square bricks and bluestones on the ground were lifted up. These broken pieces of wood and gravel were mixed with great force and smashed towards Yu Hemming. Yu Hezing was startled and hurriedly raised his hands. The true qi around his body surged as he tried to block these things. However, just as he raised his hands, the gravel in front of him flew over. The true qi around Yu Hezing's body was immediately shattered by these gravel. Yu Hezing turned pale with fright. He quickly leaped to dodge, but at this moment, not to mention the gravel covering his entire body, even the area around him was covered by the gravel. "How dare you?" Hearing Old Master Yu's angry roar, the guard behind him followed his order and flew up, each of them urging their true qi to save Mingyu. Unfortunately, they were too far away from Yu Hemming. How could they make it in time? Rather than saying that they wanted to save Yu Hemming, it was better to say that they were blocking in front of Master Yu to block the broken pieces of wood for him. Seeing that several guards had passed by him, the broken pieces of wood and gravel had already landed in front of Yu Hemming. Master Yu was shocked. He didn't expect that the intruder's strength would be so strong. Moreover, he was ruthless and didn't show any mercy. However, it was too late for him to make a move now. Master Yu raised his hand and put it down again, watching coldly. Pa pa pa. A loud rumbling sound came from where Yu Hemming was. All the broken pieces of wood and gravel that landed on Yu Hemming's body were blocked by an invisible barrier and fell to the ground. Yu Hemming, who had already given up on resisting, naturally used his hands to protect his chest in vain. His head was tucked into his chest. At this time, he was stunned as he watched the broken pieces of wood that were enough to kill him slowly fall to the ground. His eyes flashed with disbelief. Yu Hemming was safe and sound. On the other hand, the guards who rushed out to block in front of Master Yu were barely able to resist under the pressure of the broken pieces of wood. 2 of them even had their arms injured. "Ga Yu Yun." A thunderous voice came unexpectedly from not far away. "I didn't expect that after not seeing you for a few years, your cultivation has become so profound." Following this voice, a man who was even more burly than Yu Yun in armor flew out from behind the pine and cypress trees. In this burly man's hand, He was holding a servant of the Yu residence. "Go, you tight-lipped dog slave." The burly man flew closer and shook his hand. He shouted, "Kowtow to your master." The servant flew towards Yu Yun even more ferociously than the broken pieces of wood from before. A powerful force enveloped Yu Yun before the servant landed. Hiss! Yu Yun sucked in a breath of cold air, and his eyes flashed. He didn't dare to stay in the same spot any longer. Instead, he flew forward slightly and raised his hands. The noble chi surging around him formed an oval shape in front of him. Pooh! The servant landed on the noble spirit, and his body slowly floated down. Yu Yun's solemn expression had just relaxed when the noble spirit that Yu Yun had activated suddenly produced an explosive force. With a loud boom, Yu Yun's body was sent flying back a few feet. The servant who had originally landed and the few guards who had blocked the broken pieces of wood were also sent flying by this explosive force. "Ha ha! Old man you. It seems like you haven't changed much from before. You've been living like a dog all these years." With a loud laugh, the burly man landed from midair, and the entire ground shook slightly. Looking at the burly man in armor in front of him, Yu Yun sneered, "Sima Ming Hong, are you here to find someone or to provoke me? Are you representing the Sima family or yourself? Yu Zhongquan is the legitimate son of your Yu family, right?" Sima Minghong looked at Yu Yun and asked indifferently. "Yes, he's my son." Yu Yun nodded and replied sarcastically, "Could it be that Brother Sima has a dispute with my son?" "Humph, not to mention your son. Even you, what qualifications do you have to fight with me?" Sima Minghong snorted arrogantly. "Sima Mingguang has the qualifications to say this, but you don't." Yu Yun's expression didn't change as he retorted sarcastically. "Hee, don't worry, don't worry. If you can't uphold justice for my Sima family, I'm afraid that my patriarch will say this to you face to face. But when that time comes, you should know the result." Sima Minghong wasn't angry. He waved his hand and said, "Yin'er, quickly come over and tell your story to the patriarch of the Yu family. He will definitely uphold justice for you." It was only at this moment that a frail-looking scholar walked over from the end of the pine and cypress tree. Not only was this scholar young, but his face was also pale. Although the brocade robe on his body was bright, his left sleeve was fluttering in the wind. It was obvious that he didn't have a left arm. "Junior Sima, Yin greets Uncle Yu." The scholar walked in front of Yu Yun, bowed with difficulty, and said, "Junior's matter requires Uncle Yu to uphold justice." Seeing Sima Yin like this, how could Yu Yun not know why he was here? Yu Yun's mouth was filled with bitterness. He raised his hand and said, "Nephew Sima, please rise. May I know when you met my son, and how did you get into a dispute with him?" "Dispute?" Sima Minghong sneered. "My Sima family doesn't dare to have a dispute with the Yu family's son. My inner couldn't cultivate since he was young and could only read books. It can be said that he doesn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. Your son relied on his cultivation and knew some bullshit swordsmanship to bully the weak. Facing such a weak and defenseless scholar, he actually dared to attack him. Old man Yu, if you don't uphold justice for my Yu family today, do you believe that I won't tear your Yu family apart from the outside?" Sima Minghong. Yu Yun sneered and said, "Although this old man's son is unfilial and has many shortcomings, this old man knows that he has always been reasonable and abhors evil. If it isn't something that he can't stand, he absolutely won't act. This matter can't be just based on nephew Sima's side of the story. What do you mean by he didn't like? What he didn't like was something that he should attack." Sima Minghong sneered. "Not to mention that there are officials and laws in this world. There are also Confucian laws. Even if there weren't any, he shouldn't have attacked a weak child." Sima Minghong kept mentioning laws and saying that Yu Yun didn't have the strength to truss a chicken. These words made Yu Yun's mouth extremely bitter. Chapter 38-37. Uncle, please uphold justice for your nephew. At this moment, Sima Yin took the opportunity to speak. He knelt on the ground and said, "A few days ago, your nephew brought a group of guards to the outskirts for a walk. We met a few villagers who bumped into your nephew's carriage and dirtied your nephew's brocade robe. Your nephew didn't want to escalate the matter and only wanted to ask for 1 or 2 copper coins to teach them a lesson. But at this moment, your noble son descended from the sky. Not only did he disperse the guards who were protecting your nephew indiscriminately, he even cut off your nephew's left arm. He kept saying that he wanted to get rid of violence and bring peace to the people. Uncle, this little nephew only wanted to teach the villagers some etiquette and some lessons. How did it become cruel? Nephew, please get up. Yu Yun's face was a little green as he raised his hand and said, "It does sound like this old man's son is in the wrong. However, this old man has already said that what nephew said is only the opinion of one person. This old man still wants to ask my son. If it is really his fault, this old man will definitely cut off his left arm as an apology for you." "Thank you, uncle." Sima Yin stood up, trembling. He looked very weak. Yu Yin looked at Sima Yan's left arm and bit his lip. He understood that if an ordinary disciple's arm was cut off, it might not be able to be reborn. But how could a disciple of a scholarly family be cut off just like that? Since the Sima family didn't want to reattach Sima Yan's arm, they naturally had other plans. "Quickly call Yu Zhongquan out." Sima Minghong shouted. "I want to see what kind of guts he ate to actually dare to hurt my Sima family disciple." "Sigh, my son isn't at home." Yu Yun sighed. "I didn't teach my son well and couldn't discipline him. These days, he's been wandering outside. Even I don't know where he went." Sima Minghong looked straight at Yu Yun and sneered. "Old man you. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. I won't hide it from you." My clan head was furious when he heard about this. If it weren't for my persuasion, he would have come personally. My Sima clan is a scholarly clan. When have we ever suffered such a loss? This old man came here today to try peaceful means before resorting to force. If the Yu clan doesn't give me an explanation, not only will this old man not leave easily, the development of the situation in the future will definitely be out of my control. The threat in Sima Minghong's words was very obvious, not to mention that he was staring at Yu Yun like a sharp sword. Yu Yun narrowed his eyes and replied indifferently, "My Yu family has been spreading its influence in Yifeng Nation for more than a year or two. What kind of scenery have we not seen? Although my Yu clan can't be compared to your Sima clan, if you want to take away my son with just a few words, Sima Minghong, you're thinking too simply." "Simple or not, this old man doesn't know." Sima Minghong waved his hand again. A crane rushed into the air and disappeared in an instant. He then smiled and said, "This old man only knows that it's fine if you don't hand over Yu Zhongquan today, but you have to give my Sima clan an explanation. My Sima clan disciple's arm can't be chopped off for nothing." "What kind of explanation do you want?" Yu Yin asked thoughtfully. Sima Minghong took out an envelope from his chest. With a flick of his finger, the envelope fell in front of Yu Yun and said, "This is a letter from my clan head. You'll know once you read it." Yu Yin took the envelope and slowly opened it. When his gaze fell on it, his eyes flashed with anger. He raised his head and said coldly, "Impossible. This old man can't agree to this kind of condition." Boom! Just as Yu Yin opened his mouth, the envelope in his hand spontaneously combusted and instantly turned into ashes. "Since you can't agree," Sima Minghong wasn't surprised by Yu Yun's reaction. He smiled and said, "Then don't blame my Sima clan for not giving your Yu clan face. Generals, listen up, yes." It was at this moment that several cultivators who were wearing the same armor as Sima Minghong flew over from out of nowhere. When they heard Sima Minghong's order, they all replied in unison. "Sima Minghong," Yu Yin said angrily, You are trying to start a war between our two clans. This old man can't bear this crime." Sima Minghong laughed. "Since you can't hand over Yu Zhongquan, then this old man can only order the generals to go to your Yu clan and capture him. Your Sima clan's disciple barged into my Yu clan like this. Isn't this a slap to my Yu clan's face? Isn't this provoking a war between our two clans?" Yu Yin said angrily. Sima Minghong retorted, "That's right. Since you know that this old man's actions are a slap to your face, then Yu Zhongquan chopped off my Sima clan's disciple's arm. Isn't that a slap to my Sima clan's face? The one at fault is your Yu clan. Quan is indeed not at home. Otherwise, why wouldn't this old man let him out to confront me? Yu Yin suppressed his anger and said helplessly, "If he's really not at home." Sima Minghong thought for a moment and said, "Old man Yu, make an oath and tell me where Yu Zhongquan went. This old man will give you face today. Otherwise." As soon as Sima Minghong said this, Yu Yun's face flushed red. Not to mention that he was forced to swear an oath in front of his own house. Even if he revealed Yu Zhongquan's whereabouts, he wouldn't be able to face the Yu family. However, if he didn't do this, then the Sima clan's people would barge into the Yu residence. The ones who would lose face would also be him and the Yu residents. Sima Minghong was forcing him step by step. He didn't plan to let today's matter end well. Otherwise what? Yu Yin asked coldly. Haha, what else can we do? Sima Minghong finally revealed his sharp teeth. Otherwise, before Qizhanghua's army conquers Yifeng country, my Sima clan will take the head of the Grand Minister of Yifeng country first. How dare you? Yu Yun's body trembled, and a sharp aura emitted from his body. He left the residence from the side door and headed to the palace to discuss with the emperor of Yifeng country about how to deal with Qizhanghua's army. The Grand Minister of Yifeng country was Yu Yun's eldest son, Yu Zhongli. Now, the Yu residence's soldiers and message delivery were also discussing the battle report from the front line. Old man Yu, this matter is no longer up to you. Sima Minghong said coldly. It was your Yu clan who provoked us first and offended the dignity of my Sima clan. My Yu clan is already very merciful by not sending troops directly. At this moment, there were naturally soldiers flying out from the Yu residence. Their murderous aura wasn't inferior to the cultivators brought by Sima Minghong. However, Yu Yin understood that if it was a normal situation, he could fight with Sima Minghong. But now, he definitely couldn't let the Yu clan get worse. Unfilial son, thinking of Yu Zhongquan, Yu Yun's eyes were filled with anger. At the same time, a heavy sense of powerlessness surged from the bottom of his heart. Just as Yu Yun was thinking about whether to compromise, he heard a clear voice in the distance. Who is looking for my husband? Ever since Sima Minghong appeared, Xiao Hua and Fu Jiwen hid at the side and watched everything that was happening in front of them with interest. At this moment, when he heard someone speak, he had already released his soul consciousness. However, when he saw the person clearly, he frowned. He saw a woman wearing ordinary clothes flying over on clouds. This woman was short and her body was slightly plump. Her face was like a full moon, revealing a kind of luxurious appearance. She was completely different from the ghost Wang Yi that Xiao Hua saw in the Huang clan of Tianmen Mountain. Husband? Sima Minghong looked at this woman who was only in the scholar realm. Disdain appeared on his face as he waved his hand and said, "You are that shameless woman from the Chang clan who only wants to marry Yu Zhongquan, right? This old man really doesn't understand why Chang Hong Lai is so indulgent with you. If it was this old man, I'm afraid that I would have already slapped you to death." Junior Chang Yuan greets Senior. The woman landed on the field and respectfully bowed to Sima Minghong. She replied neither arrogantly nor humbly. Fortunately, this junior surname is Chang and not Sima. My father had a great scholar teach this junior about filial piety. Since young, this junior has known the principle of being filial to one's parents. Since this junior has already been betrothed to Yu Zhongquan, then this junior is Yu Zhongquan's wife. Even if my husband doesn't want this junior still has to keep my chastity for my husband. If this becomes the Sima clan's shameless, then this junior doesn't know what the Sima clan's so-called fickle woman is called in the Sima clan. You. Sima Minghong's face was slightly red, and he was rather embarrassed. Sima Yan's eyes lit up, and he said frivolously, "So this is the Chang clan's young lady. This junior has long heard of you. Now that I see you, you really live up to your reputation. Although Yu Zhongquan is your husband in name, you two are not husband and wife in reality. Moreover, Yu Zhongquan is already a grasshopper after autumn. Not many people can survive." This junior advises you to make early plans. It is my fortune to be able to marry someone with such great ambitions like you, Lang. Even if I have to die with my husband, it will be worth it. Chang Yuan looked at Sima Yan with disdain and sneered. It's still better than someone who got his arm chopped off by a woman and lived an ignoble life. Chang Yuan's words immediately pointed out the question that Yu Yun couldn't ask and even exposed Sima Yan's scars. Sima Yan's face was filled with shame and anger. Shut up. Sima Minghong scolded Sima Yan and asked Chang Yuan, Chang clan's young lady, did you come here on your own or on behalf of Exine Country's Chang clan? This junior naturally came here on my own. This has nothing to do with my Chang clan or Exine Country. Chang Yuan replied faintly. Moreover, this junior is clear about senior's intentions. Since my husband isn't here, if senior has any problems, please come to this junior. You. Sima Minghong was really caught off guard. He really didn't expect Chang Yuan to come. He also didn't expect Chang Yuan to stand up for Yu Zhongquan. Chang Yuan was right. Although Chang Yuan and Yu Zhongquan weren't married, and Yu Zhongquan had been running away from the marriage, they were still engaged. Chang Yuan could replace Yu Zhongquan's matters. Chapter 38:38. Yuan Yu Yin was truly moved. Chang Yuan's appearance instantly pulled the Yu family out of an extremely awkward situation and blocked the Sima family's meticulous plans. He opened his mouth and said, You don't have to, father. Chang Yuan's face was slightly red, as if it was the first time she had been called that. This is a matter between the boy and my husband. You don't have to worry about it. All right, Sima Yin laughed nastily and said, Since you're willing to stand up for Yu Zhongquan, then I'll take one of your arms today. If you're willing, shut up. Without waiting for Sima Yin to finish speaking, Sima Minghong berated again. If it was Yu Zhongquan, this old man would naturally take one of his arms first and then send it to my Sima family. However, since you're Yu Zhongquan's wife and a disciple of the Chang family, you can keep this arm first and wait until we return to the Sima family. It doesn't matter. Chang Yuan replied indifferently. I'm Yu Zhongquan's wife now. It has nothing to do with my Chang family. Hearing this, everyone understood that the Chang family definitely didn't want to offend the Sima family. All of this was done by Chang Yuan on her own initiative. Father. At this moment, a man wearing an official's robe who looked similar to Yu Zhongquan rushed out from the side door. He held a blood-stained tiger tally in his hand and said anxiously, Donglin Country has already sent out their troops. Their grand tutor has brought a group of disciples and is approaching the capital city. Hearing this, Yu Yun's face became anxious. His gaze fell on Chang Yuan, and he said in a low voice, This is urgent. Yuan, I'll have to trouble you for now. Let's go. Sima Minghong saw that the situation was hopeless and that the Sima family couldn't get any benefits from Yifeng Country for the time being. He laughed coldly and reached out to grab Chang Yuan. Wait. Right at this moment, even though it sounded indifferent, it was filled with boundless majesty in the hearts of everyone present. Sima Minghong was slightly startled, and he looked towards the source of the voice with great vigilance, only to see a tall and skinny Dao sect cultivator slowly walking over. Wasn't that Xiaohua, who had been watching the show from the side? Sima Minghong frowned, and his eyes flashed with confusion. When he arrived in front of the Yu mansion, he had already seen the surrounding situation clearly. Xiaohua and Fu Jiwen were quietly standing not far away. Although it looked very abrupt, Sima Minghong's divine sense swept over them, and even the clear eyes technique didn't find anything special about Xiaohua. Only Fu Jiwen's body emitted a faint Zhenqi aura, and this aura didn't attract Sima Minghong's attention. In particular, Sima Minghong closed in step by step. Although the Yu clan's patriarch, Yu Yun, kept defending himself, Yu Yun didn't even look at Fu Jiwen, who was beside him. Fu Jiwen also didn't have any reaction. He even looked like he was watching a show. Sima Minghong already knew that these two people had nothing to do with the Yu clan. Moreover, if Fu Jiwen wasn't beside him, Sima Minghong would have even thought that Xiaohua was a wandering Taoist. However, Who would have thought that at such a crucial moment, when the Yu clan gave up and the Sima clan was about to succeed, this Taoist that was almost ignored by Sima Minghong actually spoke up. Moreover, the moment he stood up, the aura around him seemed to cover up everything in the Sima clan. How could Sima Minghong not know that he was in trouble? Fellow Taoist. Sima Minghong hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "May I know why fellow Taoist spoke up?" Who would have thought that Xiao Hua would completely ignore him? Instead, he walked in front of Chang Yuan, looked in her eyes, and asked kindly, "Chang Yuan, do you know this old man?" "Say, senior?" Chang Yuan naturally felt the mountain-like pressure coming from Xiao Hua's body. At the same time, she also felt the mountain-like kindness in Xiao Hua's voice. However, she looked at Xiao Hua, shook her head slightly, and said, "Junior doesn't know senior." Then, "Do you know Huang Yi?" Xiao Hua asked again. "Huang Yi?" Chang Yuan frowned even more. After thinking for a moment, she shook her head again. Junior also doesn't know him. Disappointment appeared on Xiao Hua's face. "Cough, cough, fellow Taoist." Sima Minghong coughed a few times and wanted to speak again. Xiao Hua sneered. His gaze swept over, and he said indifferently, "Those who use their strength to bully the weak are not worthy of being Xiao Hua's fellow Taoist." You. Sima Minghong's eyes narrowed. He raised his hand but put it down again. Now that he had already taken the initiative in the Yu clan's Yifeng country, he definitely wouldn't spoil the initiative because of a trace of anger. Yu Zhongli and Yun also stood there, not daring to move. They had a feeling that Xiao Hua's appearance was definitely not a bad thing for the Yu clan. Yun even glanced at Yu Hemming, who was standing there stupidly. Could it be that you really can't remember? Xiao Hua once again looked kindly at Chang Yuan. "Huang Yi, little cabbage, Tianmin Mountain?" "Senior." Chang Yuan's face was slightly red. She said in a low voice, "Junior indeed doesn't know what senior is talking about." Xiao Hua slightly closed his eyes. His heart was rather unwilling. After thinking for a bit, he slowly raised his hand as if he was holding on to something extremely heavy. There were even invisible soul threads wrapped around his finger. As Xiao Hua's finger pointed, it landed between Chang Yuan's eyebrows. Chang Yuan only felt her vision go dark. The stars and the sun in the sky all turned into flowing light and rushed into Xiao Hua's finger. She was also sucked into it. Immediately after, the beautiful and tragic scene of that night on Tianmin Mountain floated before her eyes. Time passed for a very long time, yet it also seemed to pass for a very short time. When the sun suddenly appeared, Chang Yuan once again saw Xiao Hua standing in front of her, alive and well. As for the ferocious Sima Minghong, his face still carried the anger from before. Chang Yuan felt that her face was slightly cold. She used her hand to wipe it away. Her face was already filled with tears. Do you remember what happened?" Looking at Chang Yuan's tear-streaked face, Xiao Hua asked again. "Senior's story is very tragic and beautiful. The fate of Huang Yi and Yu Zhongquan also made this junior sigh." Chang Yuan still shook her head. "But this junior is Chang Yuan, not Huang." "Alas, forget it." Xiao Hua sighed. "Human strength is sometimes limited. This Xiao can't cover the sky with one hand." "Thank you, senior." Chang Yuan bowed slightly. "Do you need this old man to take action?" Xiao Hua looked around and asked softly. Chang Yuan shook her head. "There's no need to trouble senior. Huang Yi can turn into a cabbage and live an ignoble life for Yu Zhongquan. Why can't Chang Yuan die with Yu Zhongquan? Senior has nothing to do with this junior. How can this junior let senior take risks?" While speaking, Chang Yuan's eyes flickered. She hurriedly bowed to Xiao Hua again. "Wait." Suddenly, Xiao Hua's body shook. He hurriedly said, "You, open your eyes and let this old man take a closer look." "This?" Chang Yuan was somewhat embarrassed. This old man is old enough to be your grandfather." Xiao Hua said with a smile. "If this old man's guess is correct, you must be the person this old man is looking for." "Okay." Chang Yuan bit her lips. She opened her eyes and looked straight at Xiao Hua. "As expected, Xiaohua stared at Chang Yuan's pitch-black pupils and carefully examined the details inside. His impression of Huang Yi's appearance was basically from Huang Mengxiang's, but he had an extremely deep impression of the soul condensed into eyes. Huang Yi's ghost cultivation divine ability was called Seven Eyes Beautiful Fire. Her eyes contained an extremely powerful ghost fire. These eyes were exactly the same as her eyes when she was alive. They were completely different from Huang Mengxiang's eyes on Tianmen Mountain. But the strange thing was that the soul's eyes that Xiaohua had a deep impression of were exactly the same as Chang Yuan's in every detail. Say, Senior. Chang Yuan had never looked straight at a man for such a long time. She said somewhat shyly, Junior, Chang Yuan, Xiaohua said with a smile. The so-called eyes are the god of the heart, and the heart is the master of the soul. If a person falls into the cycle of reincarnation, everything in the past will be counted as the past, and everything in this life will be reborn. However, although reincarnation can erase the appearance of the soul, it can't erase the soul's core. Although you can't remember your past life, and it's different from your past life, but your soul, your heart, and your eyes haven't changed. You are the person this old man is looking for. A trace of surprise and excitement appeared on Chang Yuan's face. But, Junior, you don't need to remember who you were in the past. Moreover, this old man will make you forget. Xiaohua raised his hand and lightly tapped between Chang Yuan's eyebrows. He said with a smile, You only need to know that from today onwards, you are this old man's disciple. Even if the Yu clan can't make a decision for you, even if the Chang clan doesn't want to stand up for you, with this old man here, not to mention Sima Minghong, even if the entire Sima clan comes, this old man will definitely not let you suffer the slightest grievance. Say, Senior, Chang Yuan's heart gave birth to incomparable trust in Xiaohua. But suddenly asking her to become his disciple really made it difficult for her. Junior is a Confucian cultivator, not a Tao cultivator. He Junior's sister, Fu Jiwen, who had been standing respectfully at the side, said with a smile, Not only is Master's Tao cultivation unfathomable, his Confucian cultivation is also as vast as the sea. I have only been Master's disciple for 12 years, and I have already reached the stage of qi refinement and soul return. What are you still hesitating for? While speaking, Fu Jiwen opened his mouth and a mouthful of true qi rushed into the sky, causing countless noble qi to fall down with a loud bang. Fu Jiwen's heavenly book was indeed sealed by Xiaohua, but the true qi in his chest was not fake. Although he did not reach the stage of qi refinement and soul return, he still had the late stage of qi refinement. At the side, Sima Minghong and Yu Yun's expressions changed. Sima Minghong even reached out and grabbed a scroll in his bosom. Master also wants to take you Zhongshuan as his disciple. The two of you can be under this Zhao's tutelage. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing for eternity? Xiaohua said with a smile. But, Chang Yuan asked again, Junior still doesn't know Senior's name. This old man is the Tao sect's Xiaohua. Xiaohua replied amiably. Although Xiaohua's voice was soft in the eyes of others, it was no different from a bolt from the blue. What? You are Black Wind Mountain Xiaohua, Taoist Master Xiao? Sima Minghong almost could not suppress his cry of surprise. At the same time, he suddenly thought of the attack that was blocked when he was showing his might. What? Do I not look like it? Xiaohua slightly frowned. He raised his eyes to look at Sima Minghong, who he did not know before. He did not understand why everyone was so surprised. Chapter 38-39. You're the one who broke the Immortal Palace's inescapable net formation at Black Wind Ridge, swallowed 100,000 heavenly soldiers in one gulp, defeated the giant spirit Immortal General with one strike, and forced perfected Lord Qingyuan to return to the Immortal Palace. Taoist Xiaohua? Admiration appeared in Chang Yuan's eyes, and she almost stuttered as she asked, What are you talking about? Xiaohua touched his nose, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. He knew that this was false information spread by Taoist Master Ching Su, but he couldn't refute it, so he thought for a moment, then asked with a smile, "What? Wasn't this old man a little too vicious and evil? Do you still dare to take me as your master?" "Why wouldn't I dare?" When she didn't know that Xiao Hua was the Immortal Palace's enemy, Chang Yuan was still somewhat hesitant. But now, Chang Yuan actually stiffened her neck and said, "When Disciple came to Yifeng country, Disciple first sent a message to Chang family, but Chang family really hurt Disciple's heart. You family, Disciple didn't dare to say anything, but Disciple felt that if Yulang was here, he might end up like Disciple." In the eyes of aristocratic families, the life and death of an individual can never compare to the prosperity of the family. Master dared to challenge the Immortal Palace, so your name has already spread throughout the hidden immortal realm. It's Disciple's honor to be able to take you as my master. At this point, Chang Yuan's face, which had always been strong, became somewhat distressed. If Disciple doesn't take you as my master, the outcome will be death. But if Disciple takes you as my master, the worst outcome will also be death. Moreover, if Disciple takes you as my master, Disciple can still meet Yulang. Then why wouldn't Disciple take you as my master? Immediately, Chang Yuan bowed and said, "Disciple Chang Yuan greets master." After Chang Yuan kowtowed 9 times, Xiao Hua helped her up with a smile and said, "Kowtowing 9 times means you're my disciple, and I'll bear all your karma." "Yes, master." Chang Yuan nodded and obediently stood beside Fu Jiwen. "Hee, congratulations, master. Congratulations, little junior sister." Fu Jiwen congratulated with a smile, not putting the dozen or so disciples of the Sima family in his eyes at all. Sima Minghong's face was green and red, and he was extremely embarrassed. He wanted to reprimand Xiao Hua, but he didn't dare. After all, the cultivator in front of him was a fiend who ate 100,000 heavenly soldiers. Such a fearsome reputation. Even the entire Sima family would not dare to provoke him. However, Sima Minghong, who represented the Sima family, had no choice but to speak up. He gritted his teeth and said, "Taoist Master Xiao, since you want to take Miss Chang as your disciple, then she and my Sima family are. Naturally, I will take care of these trivial matters." Xiao Hua looked up at Sima Minghong and said coldly, "Since you asked about this matter, this old man will definitely give you a satisfactory answer." "Oh." Sima Minghong was slightly stunned. He didn't really understand what Xiao Hua meant. Swoosh! At this moment, the entire sky seemed to have darkened. Sima Minghong felt as if his limbs were unable to move. The true energy in his body instantly froze. The entire entrance of the Yu mansion was dead silent. This. Sima Minghong's forehead was covered with sweat. He was extremely shocked. What kind of divine ability is this? Could it be? Just when Sima Minghong was trembling with fear and was afraid that Xiao Hua would kill him to silence him, a familiar voice clearly entered his ears. "My name is Sima Yin. That day, when I was passing by Qinghong town, I happened to see a beautiful young lady resting under the shade of a tree with an old man accompanying her. That young lady was very beautiful, and I liked her very much. At that time, it was noon and there were no passers-by around. I let a group of guards surround the tree and prepare to have some fun. But at this time, Yu Zhongxuan flew over in the sky and wanted to save the young lady. The guards couldn't beat Yu Zhongxuan, and my left arm was also cut off by him. Sima Minghong raised his head in horror. He saw Sima Yin walking in front of everyone with his eyes wide open. There was no expression on his face as he spoke word by word. Not only did he speak about the day when Yu Zhongxuan saw injustice on the road, he also spoke about the plans of the Sima family. At the end, Xiao Hua glanced at Sima Minghong, who was sweating profusely, and said, "Sima Yin, apart from the dispute between you and Yu Zhongxuan that day, have you ever ruined the chastity of other women? Have you been stained with the blood of other people?" "Yes, last year in Jianghai town." Sima Yin was like a well-behaved child as he spoke about his scandals one by one. It seemed that he didn't know shame. Xiaohua only heard a few things, and his face was already filled with anger. He waved his hand and said, "Enough." "Yes." Sima Yin obediently listened. Xiaohua looked at Sima Minghong and said coldly, "Sima Minghong, this is your Sima family's disciple? He is really brave. Sima Yin really deserves to die." Sima Minghong suddenly felt that the sky was bright and he could move again. He hurriedly said, "This one will take him back to the family and ask the family head to punish him. My Sima family wrongly blamed the Yu family and will definitely come to apologize in the future." I. Sima Yin looked at everyone and listened to Sima Minghong's words. His face was pale as if he thought of something. He said a few words but didn't know what to say. "Huh." Xiaohua laughed and said, "You killed 3 people and defiled several women. When you return to your Sima family, you will only be punished. Your Sima family's rules are also very good. It's a pity that you met this old man. Since this old man dared to take you Zhongxuan as a disciple, of course I value his righteous conduct. If he can enforce justice on behalf of the heavens, why can't this old man do the same?" Spiritual Master Xiao. Sima Minghong was shocked and wanted to say something, but he saw a red spot appear on Sima Yan's forehead. This red spot instantly spread to his entire face. "Io! Sima Yan anxiously shouted and reached out to scratch his face. It was as if it was extremely itchy, but when his hand touched his face, a piece of flesh fell from his face. At the same time, the red spot spread to his hand and neck. Sima Yin was in pain and itchy. He couldn't help but scratch. After a while, his throat couldn't make any sound. His entire body curled up on the ground, barking like a dog and gasping for breath. Seeing this kind of miserable situation, even Chang Yuan, who had just heard Sima Yan's confession, couldn't help but close her eyes and not dare to look. After half a cup of tea's time, Xiaohua lightly said, This old man's answer to your Sima family. You can leave now." Chang Yuan opened her eyes and only saw a few bones on the ground slowly disappearing in a pool of blood. Where was Sima Yan's corpse? "Good." Sima Minghong clenched his teeth and said, "I will remember Spiritual Master Zhao's words. I will report this matter to my family's patriarch. Take advantage of this old man's good mood and leave quickly." Xiaohua waved his sleeves and said, "You can find this old man to take revenge, but don't involve others. If this old man finds out that your Sima family is doing something else, don't blame this old man for being ruthless. I don't know if your Sima family's disciples can even fill the gap between this old man's teeth. Leave." Sima Minghong still wanted to say something, but when he saw Xiaohua sticking out his tongue and licking his lips, he was really afraid. Xiaohua's methods were unpredictable. Although he had an extremely powerful scroll in his arms, in the end, he didn't dare to take it out to test it. Seeing that Sima Minghong left with a dozen cultivators, Yu Yun and Yu Zhongli retracted their gazes from the sky. The two of them looked at each other and bowed at the same time. "Junior thanks Spiritual Master Xiao for your help." "No need." Xiaohua ignored the two of them and said indifferently, "This Xiao has no fate with you. You don't have to thank me. Your enemy has already forced you to the city. If you can't defeat the enemy, I'm afraid that the enemy will be even more ferocious than the Sima family." Speaking up to here, Xiaohua hesitated and said, "However, this old man sees that the enemy is at the initial stage of a scholar. If you can't find enough help to resist, I'm afraid." Speaking up to here, Yu Yun's expression changed greatly, and he exclaimed, "Morong Homping? He actually personally went out to fight? Impossible, right?" Yu Zhongli said anxiously, "Murong Homping is the state preceptor of Donglin Kingdom. My Yifeng Kingdom doesn't have a state preceptor. How could he?" Xiaohua didn't care about Yu Yun and Yu Zhongli's surprise. He waved his hand and said, "Let's go, Chang Yuan. This matter has nothing to do with us anymore. Master will take you to find Yu Zhongquan." "But Master," Chang Yuan looked at Yu Yun and Yu Zhongquan's ashen faces and couldn't bear it. She also understood Murong Homping's power and said in a low voice, "Yifeng Kingdom is Yu Lang's home. If his home, is invaded by Donglin Kingdom. What will he think? Moreover, if Master doesn't help, even if my Chong family sends troops over to help, the Yu family won't be able to avoid the misfortune of being annihilated. How will Master tell you, Lang? Senior Immortal, save us. Senior Immortal, save us. Yu Yun and Yu Zhongquan were still hesitating. Yu Hemming, who saw that the situation wasn't right, immediately rushed over and knelt in front of Xiaohua, shouting, "This lowly one deserves to die." This lowly one actually didn't recognize Senior Immortal's appearance before. This lowly one really didn't expect that after so many years, your appearance hasn't changed at all. Back then, young Master and you had never met, yet you were able to save him from the hands of bandits. Even seventh Uncle Yu, who disliked Taoists very much, often talked about Senior Immortal's appearance after he left. Although seventh Uncle Yu isn't here anymore, and my young Master isn't in the residence, this lowly one is still here. This lowly one kowtows to Senior Immortal and pleads Senior Immortal to save my Yu residents and the people of my Yifeng Kingdom. This lowly one is willing. Yu Hemming was willing for a moment, but couldn't think of what he should say. In the end, he could only forcefully kowtow to the ground. Blood flowed from his forehead as he said, "Senior Immortal has the world in your heart. You definitely can't bear to let the flames of war spread throughout Yifeng Kingdom. Senior Immortal, please be merciful." Yu Hemming was indeed anxious. He even praised the eminent monks of the Buddhist sect. However, seeing Yu Hemming like this, other than Yu Yun and Yu Zhongli, the other Yu family guards also knelt on the ground. After all, Murong Hanping's power was well known in several countries. Chapter 3840. Yu Zhongli bit his lip and looked at his hesitant father, then looked at the noisy army in the distance. Steeling his heart, he lifted his official robe and knelt on the ground, solemnly saying, "Junior Yu Zhongli greets Daoist Shao. Junior will now go to battle against Murong Hanping. Junior does not dare to ask Senior to save Yifeng country, but after Junior leaves, the Yu family will belong to Yu Zhongquan. Senior, please consider your relationship with Zhongquan. Please extend your hand and save my Yu family." Looking at his own son kneeling down, Yu Yun's heart wasn't filled with grief, but with deep regret and self-blame. Previously, Xiaohua had said very clearly that he wanted to accept his son as his disciple, but he had mercilessly refused and even said ruthless words. But now, at this critical moment, how could he still plead with him? If he had formed good karma before, he wouldn't need to say anything now. Old ancestor. At this moment, a slightly immature voice sounded in the distance. A boy in an imperial robe, surrounded by a group of palace maids, came over in a dragon carriage. Along with this voice, another tyrannical divine sense swept over from outside Yifeng country's capital. This divine sense Yu Yin was very familiar with. Wasn't this the state preceptor of Donglin country, Murong Hanping? Yu Yin knew very well that back then, when Donglin Nation invaded Exine Nation, it was because of Yu Zhongquan and Chong Yuan's marriage alliance that Yifeng Nation and Exine Nation joined forces. Furthermore, with the help of Confucian cultivators who were familiar with the Chong family, Exine Nation was able to escape a calamity. Now that Donglin country invaded again, because of Yu Zhongquan, Exine country couldn't send troops for the time being. Moreover, the situation in Yu province was delicate. Many Confucian cultivators couldn't act independently, and Yu family couldn't find suitable help to resist Murong Hanping. Yu Yin had always hoped that Donglin country would follow the old rules of hidden immortal continent. As long as a country didn't have a state preceptor, the state preceptor wouldn't go to war first. But he never expected that Murong Hanping would come personally. Since Murong Hanping came, Yifeng country was finished. "Father," just as Yu Yin was thinking, Yu Zhongli stood up and said, "The monarch is here." Boy immediately faced the enemy, Taoist Master Shao. It's all Junior's fault for being blind. Yu Yin knew that it would be extremely difficult for Yu Zhongli to return from this trip. He hurriedly looked at Xiaohua, and said a few words. He gritted his teeth and was about to kneel on the ground. However, Xiao Hua frowned and raised his hand, stopping Yin. He said, "You are Yu Zhongquan's father. There is no need to be so courteous." See, Xiao Hua's words were like a bright sun in the dark night, instantly awakening Yu Yun's despairing heart. He sucked in a breath of cold air and hurriedly bowed. Junior's eyes were poor. Previously, I wronged the Taoist. Now Junior earnestly requests Senior to accept my son as a disciple. My Yu family also regards the Taoist as a master. At the side, Fu Jiwen naturally knew what his master was thinking. He was afraid that Xiao Hua would be put on the spot. So he hurriedly said with a smile, "Master, Uncle Yu loves his son dearly. Previously, it was indeed somewhat inappropriate for us to rashly visit. Now, for the sake of Junior's sister's face, please forgive them." And Xiao Hua nodded and waved his hand. "Get up. This old man is willing to accept Yu Zhongquan as a disciple, but I don't want to accept the entire Yu family." "Yes, yes." Yu Yun was overjoyed and hurriedly nodded. "Junior understands. Junior understands." Xiao Hua looked at the dragon carriage that stopped in the distance and frowned again. Now that this old man has formed a relationship with the Yu family, this old man can certainly stop the state preceptor of Donglin country. However, Yin, don't forget that this old man is a Taoist cultivator. The Immortal Palace wants to capture me. Once this old man makes a move, your Yifeng country will be blackmailed. Taoist Xiao is famous for hiding immortals, but the Immortal Palace doesn't seem to have issued an immortal order to arrest him. Yu Yun smiled bitterly. And now that things have come to this Junior can't care too much. "Taoist, please make a move. Is Murong Hanping a member of the Murong family?" Xiao Hua suddenly asked. "Of course." Yu Yun was slightly stunned. A disciple of the Murong family actually bullies the weak like this? Xiao Hua asked curiously. Murong Hanping is just a disciple of the Murong family's side branch. Yu Yun smiled apologetically. If he was a disciple of the Murong family's main branch, how could he come to Donglin country to be the state preceptor? So it's like this. Xiao Hua nodded slightly and said, "This old man understands. This old man has met Murong Tsongyun of the Murong family once." Murong Hanping had already released his divine sense, but Xiao Hua was still talking leisurely. Yu Yun was a little anxious, but when he heard that Xiao Hua had met Murong Tsongyun once, he was delighted and said anxiously, "Murong Tsongyun is a member of the Murong family's main branch. If Taoist has her keepsake, you only need to take it out and you can make Murong Hanping retreat. This old man has only met her once. How could I have a keepsake?" Xiao Hua smiled. This old man just wants to find a way to satisfy both sides. When Yu Yun heard this, his heart was filled with gratitude. He turned to Yu Zhongli and said, "Li'er, go and tell the monarch that my Yu family will send people out to fight." "Yes, father," Yu Zhongli replied and hurriedly rushed over. The monarch of Yifeng country was just a puppet in front of the Yu family. Yu Yun's words were the imperial edict in Yifeng country. "Master, if it doesn't work, let this disciple go out to fight." Fu Jiwen volunteered. Xiao Hua shook his head. "If you weren't sealed by me, you would definitely be able to do it. But now, you are not Murong Hanping's opponent." Sealed? Yu Yun was slightly stunned. He didn't dare to believe it. After all, the current Fu Jiwen looked like a scholar. He might even be at the end of the scholar stage. Could it be that he is already a scholar who has refined his qi and returned to spirit? Forget it. Master will do it. Xiao Hua thought for a while and said, "Yes, master." Fu Jiwen said respectfully, "This disciple will see how master will kill everyone." "Ha! Why do I need to kill everyone to deal with a small Murong Tsongyun?" Xiao Hua laughed loudly and flew into the air. He opened his mouth. Wonk! A sword cry soared into the sky. Following the sword cry, 9 sword lights flew out. Confucian's sword Dao. Yu Yin stood on the ground, feeling the surge of Jun Qi around Xiao Hua's body. That sharp sword Qi was surging within a radius of several hundred zhang. Every strand of sword Qi was accompanied by a strand of righteous Qi. It was the pure cultivation of a Confucian cultivator of the sword. Yu Yin couldn't help but be shocked. He knew that what Fu Jiwen said before was true. While Yu Yin was shocked, the 9 sword lights had already flown out of the capital of Yifeng country. These 9 flying swords were like 9 stars in the sky. Every time they flew, there would be a soul-stirring sword cry emitted from the sword lights, producing an extremely powerful sword force. Moreover, a huge amount of noble spirit rushed in between the rumbling of the sword lights. The noble spirit clustered around the sword lights, as if it was clustered around a king. The sword intent of the 9 flying swords condensed into one and streaked across the sky, landing in front of a Confucian cultivator wearing battle armor. This Confucian cultivator was tall and sturdy, with a handsome face. A kind of arrogance that came from being in a high position for a long time involuntarily appeared between his brows. This Confucian cultivator was the state preceptor of Donglin country, Murong Hanping. However, at this time, how could Murong Hanping still feel contempt? Looking at the flying swords whistling through the air, all his previous plans turned into dust and dissipated in the sword chi. How was this possible? When did the Yu family make friends with a master stage cultivator? Regardless of whether it was the information obtained or the clear eyes technique, there was no mention of such a powerful figure. Could it be that the Sima family's disciple just flew away, not because of my army attacking the city? Murong Hanping sensed that this murderous sword chi had completely enveloped him. The true chi in his dantian was rapidly vibrating in this sword chi. A feeling of powerlessness arose in his heart. Could it be that man proposes, God disposes? But if I retreat without a fight, how can this old man explain it to him? Murong Hanping naturally knew that he was definitely not the opponent of the Flying Sword's master. If it was a normal situation, he would have retreated long ago, but now he was unwilling, or perhaps he didn't dare. Thinking that he was nothing more than a chess piece on someone else's chessboard, Murong Hanping clenched his teeth and extended his hand to take out an old scroll from within his armor. Under the urging of true chi, he raised his hand and threw it. Clang! When the scroll unfolded, a sword cry like that of a ferocious bird rushed out. In an instant, a splendid sword chi similarly rose up like the rising sun. Boom! Like a whirlwind sweeping away the clouds, the awe-inspiring chi within a radius of 12 li from outside the capital of Yifeng Nation crazily surged into the sword light. Within the sword light, an inscription of the word sword that was at least 100 feet in size stood majestically. Just as this sword chi character appeared, each stroke began to tremble. Enormous sword chi sounds rang out incessantly. There was simply no need for Murong Hanping to do anything. That Ming, when it already sent several dozen flying swords to meet Xiao Hua's 9 stars transit of the sun, several flying swords collided with each other in a flash. Thousands of sword chi danced in the air, and all kinds of brilliance overflowed in all directions. The deafening roar resounded through the entire horizon. Murong Hanping urged his true chi to do his utmost to resist the incoming gale. He widened his eyes and used the clear eyes technique to stare fixedly at the sky. A rare kind of expectation appeared on his face. Unfortunately, in merely a few breaths of time, a flying sword that was like a 9-colored dragon flew out from the sword chi and directly landed on the scroll in midair. That scroll shattered like paper. Boom! At the same time that the scroll shattered, even more sword chi transformed into fragmented inscriptions that filled the sky and fluttered like snow falling from the sky. How is this possible? Murong Hanping was completely dumbfounded. Even when the flying sword broke through the scroll and once again landed on top of his head, it was as if he didn't feel it. This is a scroll written by the sage of literature. How can it be so weak? However, the sharp sword chi on his forehead immediately woke him up. Under the sword chi, the space between his eyebrows and other places split open, and streaks of blood seeped out. Murong Hanping didn't have the slightest doubt that as long as the opponent thought about it, his head would be separated from his body. This was something that he, as the teacher of a nation, had never encountered before. The streaks of blood condensed into drops of blood and slowly flowed down, streaking across Murong Hanping's cheek. Murong Hanping didn't dare to move. That flying sword was heavier than any mountain he had ever seen. Chapter 38-41. Murong Hanping. Within the sword light, Xiao Hua's voice leisurely sounded, very dignified. Yifeng country's Yu family is this old man's old friend. If this old man hadn't revisited this old place on a whim today, I'm afraid this Yifeng country would have been captured by your Donglin country. Logically speaking, this old man should have killed you on the spot, but since this old man and Murong Tsongyin have met before, I'll let you off today. The 9 flying swords suddenly flew away. Murong Hanping's body lightened, but he felt that his entire body was covered in sweat, soaking his armor. Senior, can you bestow me your name? Murong Hanping probed, still unwilling to give up. You don't deserve to know this old man's name, Xiao Hua said coldly. Of course, if you don't want to know, you won't be able to return to Donglin country today. Why haven't you left yet? Another huge rumble sounded, but this time the rumble came from Murong Hanping's mind. A burst of dizziness made Murong Hanping almost unable to stand steadily in the air. Facing such a mysterious opponent, how could Murong Hanping dare to stay any longer? Turning around, Murong Hanping glanced at the cultivators who had been forced to retreat several hundred meters by the flying swords, waved his hand, and said, "Retreat." Seeing the might of Xiao Hua's sword sweep away 1,000 soldiers and force Murong Hanping to flee in panic, Yu Yun and Yu Zhongli's faces were full of joy. Not to mention that such a powerful expert was Yu Zhongquan's future master. Even if they could befriend Xiao Hua, the Yu family and Yifeng country would definitely be safe for 1,000 years. Junior thanks Daoist Xiao on behalf of my Yifeng country's millions of people. At this time, Yu Zhongli was sincerely convinced and kneeled on the ground. In the distance, the young ruler who was surrounded by people also had an expression of admiration in his eyes. If it weren't for the many palace maids blocking him, he would have already rushed over. Xiao Hua looked at everyone and waved his hand, saying, "This Xiao only came here by chance. This Xiao's original intention was Yu Zhongquan. Therefore, if Yu Zhongquan has done anything harmful to Yifeng country, everyone can forget about it. This Xiao is doing this to make up for Yu Zhongquan's previous actions." When Yu Yun heard this, his face turned red. To be honest, he hated Yu Zhongquan's actions from the bottom of his heart. He had scolded Yu Zhongquan more than once behind everyone's back. The reason why Yu Zhongquan had repeatedly run away from the marriage was because he had betrayed Yu Yun. Now that he saw Xiao Hua actually exonerate Yu Zhongquan, how could he be at ease? Daoist Master Xiao, actually, it's all my fault, Yu Yun said sincerely. Xiao Hua shook his head. You weren't wrong. Yu Zhongquan wasn't wrong either. You've done a lot for Yifeng country and the Yu family, and Yu Zhongquan has also sacrificed a lot for his own ideals. Unfortunately, you can't give Yu Zhongquan what he wants. You can't understand what Yu Zhongquan is thinking. Now that you have this Xiao, you can be at ease. Whatever Yu Zhongquan wants, this old man will give him. This Xiao will bear all the consequences of Yu Zhongquan's actions that have violated the rules of Confucianism. Alas, Yu Yun sighed, kneeling on the ground and kowtowing. This junior gave birth to Quan but I can't raise him, and I can't let him freely soar in the sky of faith and righteousness. Now, I can only ask Daoist Master Xiao to give Quan a pair of free wings and let him roam freely. And this old man understands. You may rise. Xiao Hua accepted Yu Yun's bow. He understood that Yu Zhongquan's mortal fate with Yifeng country, and even the Yu family, had come to an end. When Yu Yun got up, Xiao Hua transmitted his voice. Yu Yin, at this point, you should explain Yu Zhongquan's whereabouts to this Xiao. Yes. Yu Yin nodded respectfully. He took out a letter from his bosom and handed it to Xiao Hua, saying, "This was left behind by Quan when he left home. Although every time Quan left home, he would leave behind a letter, but not every time is true, so this junior can't be sure." Xiao Hua took the letter and read it carefully. Before he could finish reading, an inexplicable fear arose in his heart. "Oh, not good." Xiao Hua frowned and cried out in a low voice. "Master." Fu Jiwen rarely saw Xiao Hua lose his composure. He hurriedly asked in a low voice, "Is there something wrong?" Xiao Hua looked left and right. He took out a chinquan bag and threw it to Yu Yun, saying urgently, "The grains in this bag are for your Yu family. No matter if it's Yifeng country, Xian country, or even Donglin country, as long as there is a famine, you can give it to them." This, Yu Yin didn't understand the meaning of Xiao Hua's words, but when he opened the chinquan bag, he was wild with joy. He cried out in surprise, "Taoist Master Xiao, how do you know that my Yifeng country is full of famine?" Xiao Hua didn't have time to explain. He just waved his hand and said, "This old man already saw it when I came here. This is a meeting gift from this Xiao to the Yu family. You all can accept it. This old man still has urgent matters to attend to, so I won't delay any longer. See you later." As Xiao Hua spoke, he waved his hand and took Fu Jiwen and Chang Yuan. His figure turned into a rainbow and flashed into the distance. Seeing Xiao Hua fly away, Yu Yun's eyes flashed with extraordinary splendor. Almost without hesitation, he knelt on the ground and kowtowed, saying, "Junior Yu Yun thanks Taoist Master Xiao for bestowing the grains. Junior doesn't dare to assume an undeserved reputation. I will spread Taoist Master Zhao's name throughout Yifeng country." "Father." Beside him, Yu Zhongli's face lit up with joy. He asked in a low voice, this chinquan bag is actually grain?" "That's right." Yu Yin handed the chinquan bag to Yu Zhongli and sighed, "That's right. Not to mention Yifeng country, Xian country, and Donglin country. Even if another Yifeng country came, it would still be able to solve the current famine. If Taoist Master Xiao had come a few months earlier, Donglin country wouldn't have dared to invade our territory while our Yifeng country was in famine. Sigh, Taoist Master Xiao. What a godly person, truly a great master who bemoans the state of the universe and sympathizes with mankind. With such a great master, little brother Quan's future achievements will far surpass this boy's." Yu Zhongli sighed and said with some envy. But Yu Yun's eyes were filled with worry. He looked in the direction Xiao Hua left and said in a low voice, "I don't know why Taoist Master Xiao left in such a hurry. Is it because of Quan Er's safety? Or is Quan Er able to safely become Taoist Master Zhao's disciple? Who knows? Little brother has always been very open-minded. Ordinary Confucian cultivators and great Confucian cultivators wouldn't even look at him. They would only criticize him as a rotten Confucian." Yu Zhongli was also worried. Regardless of whether it was Xiao Hua, Yu Yun, or Yu Zhongquan, none of them noticed that after Xiao Hua transformed into a rainbow and left, on a small mountain less than 10 li away from where Xiao Hua had scared Murong Hanping away with his sword, a short Confucian cultivator poked his head out from the mountain rocks like a ghost. This Confucian cultivator's clothes were different from ordinary Confucian cultivators. It was a kind of earthy, yellow official robe. Wasn't it the same as the land Xiao Hua had encountered near Blackwind Ridge that day? And at this moment, on the earthy yellow official robe, strands of cloud and mist emerged from the strange patterns engraved with inscriptions. This cloud and mist lingered together with the mountain rocks and land beneath the Confucian cultivator. Not only did it conceal the Confucian cultivator's figure, it also extracted a force from the mountain rocks and sent it into the Confucian cultivator's body. Is this the Xiao Hua that the Immortal Palace's decree said to pay close attention to? He's really powerful. That Confucian cultivator looked in the direction Xiao Hua flew and whispered to himself. Even true monarch Qing Yuan's troops couldn't capture this cultivator. How could Morong Hanping be his opponent? However, This has nothing to do with this old man. As long as this old man uses the land writ to report his whereabouts to the Hall of Enlightenment, it will be a great merit. As soon as his voice fell, the Confucian cultivator raised his hand and took out an imperial tool that looked like a floating cloud. He opened his mouth, and a strand of earthy yellow true qi fell on it. The imperial tool silently expanded and turned into a cloud that flew into the sky. In just a moment, it mixed with the clouds in the sky, and no one knew where it went. When the imperial tool flew out, the Confucian cultivator's figure flashed, and earthy clouds gushed out from his official robe. The clouds drilled into the ground, and the Confucian cultivator's figure also fell into the mountain rocks. It wasn't only his father and eldest brother who were worried about Yu Zhongquan. Even the young lady who didn't have a proper status, Chang Yuan, asked in a faint voice, "Master, you're in such a hurry. Could it be because of Yulang?" Xiao Hua didn't use the lightning evasion technique. When he heard Chang Yuan's question, he slightly shook his head and said, "Master previously had a kind of great warning sign, but I didn't understand why. However, when I saw the letter Yu Zhongquan left for his family, I suddenly had a premonition. This premonition might be related to Yu Zhongquan, but it might also be related to Master. Master is temporarily unable to distinguish. Yes, we're his junior martial brother now. What was written in the letter?" Fu Jiwen asked in a low voice. Xiao Hua didn't hide it and said, "The letter didn't say much. It only said that he received an invitation from a good friend to go somewhere, so that his family wouldn't be worried." "That place, where is it?" Chang Yuan wanted to know where Yu Zhongquan went even more than Fu Jiwen. "Su Province's Fengxiang country," Xiao Hua replied word by word. Chang Yuan was somewhat puzzled and secretly pondered. However, Fu Jiwen said in surprise, "Master, Su Province and Beihai are still going in opposite directions. Can you still catch up with the previous plan? Beihai's matter is admittedly important, but Yu Zhongquan's life is even more important." Xiao Hua replied without hesitation. "Let's hurry to Fengxiang country first." "Master," Chang Yuan bit her lips, as if she didn't dare to ask too much. However, she was somewhat unwilling and said in a low voice, "Why is Yu Zhongquan going to Fengxiang country?" Don't think too much," Xiao Hua said with a smile. "Yu Zhongquan received a message from a good friend, so he went to Fengxiang country. From the tone of the letter, this good friend should be a man." Chang Yuan's face slightly reddened. She lowered her head and said, "Disciple, just wanted to ask. Yu Zhongquan has always been a righteous person. Others only need to say a word, and he would be willing to go through water and tread on fire." "Forget it." Xiao Hua's hands fluttered like butterflies through flowers, as if he was forming some hand seals. An indescribable fluctuation spread out in all directions. Similarly, some obscure fluctuations penetrated into Xiao Hua's hands. After a moment, Xiao Hua smiled and said, "Everything depends on effort. We don't need to be too cautious. Fu Jiwen, you drive the flying carriage. Master will help Chang Yuan see her realm and also guide her cultivation." You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.